pitching it. He does to Cook. Oh, he reaches across. Touchdown, Buffalo.
Who should we get the ball to?
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
First and goal. Mahomes still has it. To the 5, and in for the touchdown. And his worst pass of the night is on the spike attempt.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Barkley, a little shovel, looking for an edge, gets it, Saquon Barkley, first down, Barkley, oh! Saquon, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
First to throw, near side, lets it rip, Brown, touchdown!
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Design run, Hurts, delay, Hurts, in, touchdown, Eagles!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, 365 Sports on a Monday. We now know Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, and we will discuss that here in the opening half hour of the show. Also, the Cowboys have a new coach, introduced Brian Schottenheimer today. We'll have that. Newey Scruggs of NBC5 in Dallas will join us in his opinion on that and a few audio clips along the way. And our guests today include not only Newey, but we'll also hear from Bobby Stroop. Started a little business in Tyler, Texas called APEC, Accelerate Performance Enhancement Camp. And now he built it up into a monster, sold it. He lives in Kansas City. He's always been kind of that consultant and trainer for Patrick Mahomes, but others as well, as the Chiefs are in a Super Bowl and win another championship. And yet again, a very close game. They made the plays when they had to make the plays. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time today. If you can, off the top, hit the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. So we will talk Cowboys, and we will get into the championship games as well here throughout the show, including a little bit here now. But let's discuss. This is a big deal in college football. Jim Knowles, Ohio State's mastermind for their defense, 3 years there. It looked like he had turned down the opportunity at Penn State, thought that was a done deal. Over the weekend that started to simmer, and now official, he in fact does get, according to Brett McMurphy, a 3-year, $9 million plus deal to go now play or coach the Nittany Lions defense.
Yeah, it's Oklahoma was kind of counting on this happening. They were hoping, I know a lot of their fans were, well, he's going to Penn State. He's from Philadelphia. He's a Pennsylvania native. And James Franklin, I guess, is copying the Ryan Day playbook. I wonder how many people remember how bad the Ohio State defense was before Jim Knowles got there. They were leaky as a sieve, and he certainly tightened them up, and they've now won the national championship. So James Franklin taking a page out of that playbook. Although defense wasn't his problem, he just keeps losing elite defensive coordinators. He lost Manny Diaz, he lost Tom Allen, and now he has to go and get Jim Knowles, and they're paying Jim Knowles a bunch of money, so whoever wants to get him is going to have to beat $3.1 million a year. And I know Oklahoma fans felt the sting of that today because I think they thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma had pinned a lot of hopes to Jim Knowles being the next defensive guy there in Norman, and this is a big swing and a miss. I mean, based on the reactions and the reporting that I had seen, this was a guy they were heavily targeting, heavily wanting, and we're hoping they were going to land, and I guess it depended on where you looked on what the percentages of that actually were. But there's no, we didn't want him anyways today in Norman, Oklahoma. Like, there's none of that when you lose a commit. We didn't really want that guy. No, they wanted Jim Knowles based on everything that I had seen. So, that's a big miss by the Sooners who were looking to bring in a big-time defensive mind to pair with the one they've got there at head coach and try to get this thing on track in year 2 of the SEC. But instead, they'll keep looking, and instead he's staying in the Big Ten and giving quite a big shockwave and a big early punch landed by Penn State here in this college football offseason, letting you know that the Nittany Lions are about that business, and they made the playoff, and they smelt and felt what that tasted like, and then they saw Ohio State go and take the whole cake, and now they want it too. And they're going to, obviously, based on moves like this, go after it this offseason. So there's an early team to watch for Oklahoma. That's a blow. And then, for Oklahoma State, just interesting that the guy that was there, DC there for a while and left a few years ago, is, now such a big name. So there is that tie-in back around. But no, they didn't necessarily like losing him a couple years back. But obviously he went off and had some great success at Ohio State. So we'll see if he can do the same in Happy Valley.
You hear about whether you're committed or not. Penn State was in the semifinals, a really good team. And they're absolutely, okay, if we need to improve, then where do we go? Find somebody that will make us even better, a guy that just won a ring. And hasn't always started well where Jim Knowles has been. It's taken time. I saw a couple of notes from even some football analysts that usually his first year's defense is okay, not bad, but then the second year they always seem to, according to the stats, be much, much better. And then, of course, Ohio State celebrated their national championship that occurred 1 week from tonight, 1 week ago tonight, by the win and the win against Notre Dame. And so they do that. Knowles was not there because he was trying to decide what he wanted to do.
They told him not to be there because he was deciding what he wanted to do. So they told him, based on what I'd read, not to be there because there was obviously the likelihood that he was going to be leaving. So I guess it's to not distract or whatever, just to get his decision out there. They went ahead and celebrated without him. I don't think it probably changed much. 30,000 plus people were there in Columbus yesterday to celebrate that national title. So they still had, plenty to be happy about. And, we'll see what ends up happening as far as the domino effect of that goes. But it's a really big swing and contact by Penn State, who was knocking on the door just a few weeks ago. So interested to see how they continue to try to ramp up the momentum and carry this thing over the finish line. There for a staff who's obviously had a lot of question marks with James Franklin, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. Well,
it's the Big Ten with, of course, the last 2 national champions. You better keep up with the Joneses, so to speak, whether it's with your wallet and or also with talent and those who will coach the talent. Shedeur Sanders been up in Dallas working out for the NFL draft. The East-West Shrine workouts started up there over the weekend. I watched a lot of different guys who were following certain drills. He is someone that is probably not going to do much leading up to, in fact, the combine or even at the combine, taking his time. He kind of knows where he is among the quarterback, I guess, pecking order with Cam Ward also in that conversation. But I saw a little clip of him talking about what he plans on doing. And so Shedeur Sanders up in Dallas with Cam Ward and others getting ready for the draft and all these combine-type workouts.
Yeah, I don't blame him for not playing. I mean, right? There's a lot on the line for guys like that, but he's there. He's doing the interviews. Yep. He's doing it. So like Travis Hunter's not even there. Of course, I don't think he really needs to play in all-star games for people to know that, if you have a chance to lasso a unicorn, you lasso that unicorn and see what happens. But I don't blame him for not playing. But he's going through the process. He's there at the East-West Shrine game. So, I'm not surprised.
He also said he's not sure he'll throw at the combine either, which is not the only time that's ever happened. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, can you go back to that quote that he actually had there? I don't think we actually read that off. We changed the program at Jackson State. We went to Colorado, changed the program. We did everything people didn't think we were able to do, so that's why I know I'm the most guaranteed risk you can take. So, that's a guy who doesn't lack in confidence. I think he's got a point in that they've improved the situations wherever he's been in college over the last few years, and he's a guy who's definitely got some skill. So I think he's an attractive prospect and certainly isn't going to be broken by throwing at the Shrine Bowl or even playing in the Shrine Bowl game. So I know he's kind of outlined what his plans are, and it's still sort of, I guess, up in the air on exactly what he's going to do. But seems like you're not going to see him work out too much during the pre-draft process, which makes sense for somebody of his caliber and kind of his situation. But we'll see how that kind of goes over the course of the next few weeks.
All right, so Super Bowl 59 is in New Orleans. We will be there next week, Monday through Friday, broadcasting our show in the afternoon, gathering interviews throughout the day, and then present that from New Orleans at NFL Media Headquarters inside the Convention Center. We'll be there, and here they are again, Kansas City and Philadelphia, who torched Washington, and all of what I thought could go wrong did go wrong. I did not expect a massive difference in the turnovers, but that's how Washington got there with the turnovers by the Lions the week before. But it's Kansas City and it's Philadelphia. And it's a rematch from just, 2 or 3 years ago. And these are the two best teams in pro football. I know that the Bills could say they are, but these two teams are on a collision course.
Yeah, they're – God, the poor Bills. I just
play better, man.
I know,
what?
Yeah.
Play don't play like ass. Josh Allen, man up and don't throw it all erratic early on in the game. Try to get picked off 5 times in the first 5 minutes.
That's true. I feel bad for their fans because it's like you're right up against it. I feel bad for the Bills, but for the fans that have no
you had
control.
the 4 consecutive Super Bowl losses, and now you're having this little stretch of NFC or AFC championship.
And the thing is, there's that thought of, well, if Patrick Mahomes didn't exist, this would be our time, but he does.
Or would it be Lamar Jackson's time?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got there's always something in the way. Until you figure it out, or Joe Burrows, who knows? But the difference between that is that those two organizations are all run way better. But it shouldn't be surprised that the two most consistent ownership groups in sports that consistently address problems through all means necessary, keep coming out on top. The Chiefs didn't have wide receivers to start the year. They're relying on rookies, and they go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. They bring Juju Smith-Schuster back because they know their quarterback can make it work. And, where their offense wasn't really all that great at the beginning of the year, now it's starting to hit on all cylinders.
Looked pretty damn good yesterday.
Yeah, it's starting to hit on all cylinders. And you know why? Because they didn't just say, these things don't work out most of the time. They went and they tried to – they're capitalizing on what is an elite window. And the Eagles are right there doing the same thing. Collapsed at the end of the year last year, and guess what they do? They figure out a way to get better. They just get better, and they get better, and they get better. And even though this is not a Super Bowl that I think, a lot of fans probably wanted to see because you're probably tired of those two teams, well, tell the other 30 owners in the league to do it better than them. And of course, part of that is that Patrick Mahomes walks the face of this earth, and he's unbleeping real.
Yeah, congratulations to the Chiefs and the Eagles, as much as it pains me to say, because I'm certainly one of those that wasn't necessarily rooting for this matchup. I was hoping the Commanders would continue the Cinderella run, but I wasn't surprised by the fact that they didn't, or that they even got beat up pretty good. Just wasn't in the cards, and they far exceeded my expectations anyway. So, we were I say we, but I was playing with house money as a fan. That sucked. You would have liked to have seen a better ending, but I think it just kind of highlighted where Washington needs to get better on defense in particular. They need to improve, so they will go and do that. I have lots of faith in that staff that they're heading in the right direction. I think that's clear by where they ended. And then on the other side of things, like with the Bills, I hate to be so abrupt, but my sister and my brother-in-law are massive Josh Allen fans because of fantasy football. And so they've been, talking about him a lot. They like him a lot. And I, have kind of just been entertained by that, and also thought, I'll root for him for them because I had no dog in the fight once Washington lost. All right, I'll root for the Bills because I know that would make them happy. And, man, was that frustrating. Came out, and like I said, how many picks did he nearly throw in the beginning of that game? 3 or 4, I know that's Josh Allen's style, is to throw it in dangerous situations and whatnot, but it's dude, what do you even do? You're trying to lose this game right out of the gates. I didn't feel like they came across very sharp at the beginning of that game. Obviously rallied, and you have to kill Kansas City. And I don't know if anybody's got the weaponry to do that. I suppose if anybody does, it's Philadelphia, but I was really disappointed that yesterday wasn't the Bills' best performance that we had seen. It's like, this is what you've been talking about. It's what you've been waiting for. And I just didn't feel like they played their best, but a large part of that had to do with Kansas City. That defense is incredible.
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes is incredible. And it's pretty impossible to stop that thing. So, I'm a big Patrick Mahomes fan. Happy for him. I think there's going to be some great marketing for the Big 12 with obviously his Texas Tech ties that you've been able to really go to town with in terms of marketing the Red Raiders and the conference to a lesser extent. So you'll be able to do that again and for the foreseeable future. Travis Kelce, obviously a Cincinnati guy, Jalen Hurts, Oklahoma when they were in the Big 12, and there's plenty of others that you could attach some PR to if you're the league. Although I don't know, can you really talk about Jalen Hurts now if you're the Big 12 since he's at Oklahoma? I mean, does he still? He played in the league, but they're not in the league.
Vince Young is a part of the SEC Hall of Fame.
I think. He played his last year in the Big 12.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
But I mean, regardless, like the two biggest, most talked about stars in that game are going to be from the Big 12, and they both play for Kansas City. And they
well, Saquon's from Penn State, and they'll get a little bit of that nugget, but the quarterbacks get all.
Who's going to get talked about more, Taylor Swift's boyfriend or Saquon Barkley?
I think so.
Yeah,
Taylor
okay,
Swift's
all
boyfriend.
right, yeah. So the two biggest stars in that game.
Excuse me, I'm just saying there's a star there too.
No, I'm not trying to.
I get it. I get
be
what you're
literal.
saying.
So. Two of the biggest stars in this game are from the Big 12, and so I think that'll be cool marketing. But I definitely think that there's fatigue. I saw a post by one of the major websites, I think it was CBS, and normally you post like, hey, it's so-and-so in the Super Bowl, and you have a mix of reactions. I'm not BSing you. There was probably 15 reactions, and every single one of them was like, this sucks, we don't want to watch this. And, it's Twitter, so half of them are probably bots anyways. But I do think there is that feeling, and I had that feeling last night of like, well, I don't have anybody to root for, and I don't think I'll change that. I don't want to see Philadelphia win another Super Bowl. Yeah. I'm a Commanders fan. I don't want to see them win a Super Bowl, and I am tired of the Chiefs. Although I'll be happy for, Patrick, for example, if they were to win, but I'm not like outright rooting for that at this point. So yeah, I think a lot of people are going to have a bit of a quandary of like, what's the lesser of two evils, so to speak, and who do you root for in this game? Because I don't think there's necessarily that team you just wrap your arms around that's the underdog. That would have been Buffalo. That would have been Washington. Instead, it's the same two that we feel like we've seen for like 5 straight years, even though that's not been the case.
Kansas City's amazing. They're going to try to do something that's never been done. Only a handful of teams have ever even put in position to win a third straight actually in the game. And most have been interrupted by either a losing season, getting knocked out of the playoffs early. Here is Patrick Mahomes and his history since becoming the starting quarterback. AFC Championship, Super Bowl win, lost in the Super Bowl. AFC Championship, Super Bowl win, and Super Bowl appearance coming up on Sunday. The Super Bowl loss was to Tom Brady. Was that right? Yeah, during the COVID year 3 of Patrick Mahomes when they played the Buccaneers in Tampa. We were there for that game, and so there we are. Patrick Mahomes, what a year, what a career. That's from Chase Daniel, the former Missouri quarterback.
Yeah, it sucks for Josh Allen. It sucks for Lamar Jackson. It sucks for a lot of guys that probably aren't going to win Super Bowls or even play in them because of him. But somebody's got to be the best. Brady prevented a lot of guys from playing in AFC Championship games and Super Bowls as well that otherwise probably would have. So, yeah, Mahomes is Brady but his own thing. And just for how long this lasts, I think, is the biggest question. But it looks like it's going to last for another decade probably. I mean, as long as they can keep Spagnuolo and Reed and basically Kelce and Mahomes together, I think that's like the holy foursome that so long as those guys are intact, you feel like they're going to be there every single year. But their defense is still underrated somehow because the offense gets so much attention. But their defense is great. Their offense is great. They're great. And it's kind of annoying, but I know as I spoke to Mahomes in Texas Tech or Kelce in Cincinnati, there's a lot of Kansas City fans in the Big 12 footprint too. So, for the KU fans and the K-State fans, and I'm sure Iowa State and whoever else roots for the Chiefs, like, hey, enjoy it. I know you are, but certainly it's annoying if you're not a Kansas City fan.
Well, so there's the game. We'll be there next week to cover the Radio Row with certain interviews, personalities, players, Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and look, I think Kelsey's coming to the end of the line not because, he's getting older and he's got all the other opportunities and everything that's going on, but I mean, he's going to probably play to the end of that contract, but would it shock you to see them, like, draft Tyler Warren if he's sitting there and just have him there? And, like, so
no.
Kelsey leaves and there's just another guy that just kind of springs up like a mushroom?
No, but I just think he's, like, so much of a sure thing that, like, there's, like, 4 sure things in that whole thing. It's their DC, it's their head coach, it's their tight end, it's their quarterback. You can say Chris Jones and whoever else, too. Like, I think that would be a massive loss for them.
He is one of the best I've ever seen when it comes to after the catch.
But Chris Jones, they almost lost him last year. They couldn't get it, like, worked out, and then eventually they're like, you know what? Let's just make this thing happen.
But everything seems to work in their favor ultimately. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It seems to work in their favor. And, catch the ball. Was it Dalton Kincaid? And maybe we're talking about something different. But instead, you have to drop. Or how about
being ready for the blitz and having another play checked at the line of scrimmage, too?
Yep.
Yeah, they had the chance. They had the ball. If that would have been Kansas City down 3, they at least kicked the field goal and probably find a way to even score and win the game. So there we are with that. So there's the stats of Mahomes, an unbelievable run. Here's Ed Werder on the 2 coaches, winningest coaches in both Kansas City and Philadelphia history. It happens to be that guy. Andy Reid, remember, he couldn't win the big game when he was at Philadelphia with Donovan McNabb among others, and he's now the leading, has more wins both with those 2 franchises than anybody else that Kansas City or Philadelphia has ever had.
Well, it's worked out for both of them, right? I mean, the Eagles finally won their championship, and then that guy got sent packing, and now Nick Sirianni's back in this thing again, and, Saquon Barkley, man, like – he gives you a lot of confidence. I kind of thought for the last couple of years that Nick Sirianni was like one of those guys who kind of couldn't get out of his own way, like his kind of, tough guy, attitude and rage would kind of be in the way. But when you get Saquon Barkley on an offense and then everything just seems to kind of fit for you, well, there you go. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they got this.
They're the 2 most talented teams. They're the 2 teams with clearly the most talent. I mean, when you look at them top to bottom. So I think it'll make for a very competitive game. I think there's 2 good head coaches. Andy Reid's one of the best ever. Patrick Mahomes may be the best ever. A lot of guys you can say that about or having that conversation. So I think, for as much as people might be fatigued by the Chiefs, which is understandable because, what is it, like 8 championship games in a row and 3 Super Bowls now in a row and 4 the last, I think the
7.
run's ridiculous, whatever it is exactly. But that's understandable that if you're not a fan, you'd probably be a bit worn out. But it's still a great team. And then Philly, the same thing. Not necessarily the most likable for us as fans of other NFC East teams, but a great team. And Saquon's been a revelation and been a great story, and it's hard not to root for that guy. Jalen Hurts is a great player, so I think Kansas City. I'm gonna bet on them every single time because I think it's stupid not to. I don't care what the storylines are. I said this at the beginning of this year. Y'all remember when the NFL season started and everybody's like Lamar Jackson, and I remember just saying like, okay, that's cool. Chiefs in the Super Bowl until further notice, and here they are again.
Yep.
But I do think Philadelphia is good enough to beat them, so that will make for an entertaining game, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is that it should be a great game no matter whether you have somebody to root for or not.
Newy Scruggs works the Dallas market, has been there for a long time, came in from L.A., thought he would be in the market for a couple of years, go back to L.A. He never left. He's one of the dominant names up in the Dallas and Fort Worth market. Will join us in a minute on Brian Schottenheimer being introduced. Now, we don't have time to get to all of these. We'll have another segment or 2 to kind of hear what Stephen or Jerry said today. I happened to get in the car. I had not been watching the press conference. I got in the car to go to H-E-B for a second, and it was rather entertaining with Tim Calishaw and Jane Slater. But, Paul, what do we have here?
Okay, so first off, to get the idea of what we're dealing with here, and let's just talk about what he said about risk. And this was at the end of a near, 7-minute word salad, Emery? I think it was like 7 minutes. I cut him up into 4. Yeah, but the risk thing was like 7 minutes. No. Okay. Like, so I just had Emery take out the meat and potatoes of it, and this is Jerry talking about the big risks he's taken.
It's as big a risk as you could take as big a risk as you could take, no head coaching experience. That let me share something with you. With all of that, you've just heard him reference his osmosis, his family. Anybody in this room that doesn't believe the apple doesn't go far from the tree has missed it someplace down the road, especially if there was an effort to make it that way, and there was an effort. But then you go around to the countless numbers of coaches that Shotty has served on staff with and been around, the countless players. How often do you have someone that has 25, I want to say 25, it may be 26, of years of working through the human relationship and working, aspiring to learn, of have his ears and eyes wide open and looking for techniques and looking for things that make coaches better? How often do you have a chance to take advantage of all of that at 50 years old, which is a puppy? Yet he's had 25 years being around the kinds of things that he's going to have to draw on to be a coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I like his baggage. I like his baggage.
All right, that's Jerry. That's part of what he mentioned today. What he also has been doing, and he did this back when they hired Wade Phillips, is how he gets emotional. He's a very emotional guy. You could not like him or not or whatever, but I heard a lot of the same things I've heard now for the last 2 or 3 head coaches they've hired.
All right. Okay, so my attack on this is two-pronged. One, he's talking about risk. They don't take risks. Brian Schottenheimer's not a risk. I mean, like, hiring a guy who's already in your building is not really all that risky, especially if you're not going to do anything risk with the roster. He also made some kind of comment about how much he pays coaches when he's one of the ones who pays them the worst. But this will be put on T-shirts, and this from Stephen Jones will draw the ire of every single Cowboys fan in existence.
You guys need to do differently to support Brian and to end the 29-year drought that you guys have between going to a Super Bowl.
Well, I think we, you always have to evaluate, where it didn't go right last year. And obviously we're also evaluating where it didn't go right, in terms of, this drought that people say we're in terms of a championship game or a Super Bowl. And, we just have to continue to make this roster better. It'll certainly be something that Jerry, myself, Will and his staff, and now Coach Shotty and his staff, we'll sit down and take a look and see what we have to do better. I think we got a lot of great pieces. You ask why Shotty? I think Shotty's the perfect combination of keeping some continuity, but also affecting change, and we have to support that as well.
So-called drought, quoting that. It's a drought. 29 years is a drought. Not playing longer than anybody else in the NFC because Washington made the championship game is a drought for the franchise that at one point was at the very top of the chain when it came to Super Bowl championships with 5.
Yeah, and Newey just jumped on. I can't wait to ask him about this. But Stephen Jones seems to me, after that air quote of like laying in a hospital bed after having quintuple bypass surgery and going, Doc, this heart attack that you said I had.
Yeah.
I mean, you called it a heart attack. I just called it an oopsie. I don't know if I've ever seen anything from the Jones family that was that ill-advised of calling something, in air quotes, a so-called drought, as we bring in Newey Scruggs right now. And Newey, I don't think that could have gone any worse for the Cowboys today.
Look, man, they know the fans are mad. They know they need to go back to work. And so paying attention to what Steven says right now really wasn't a big thing to me. It was about, and I asked Jerry, you're 82 years old. Name me another general manager who's winning professional championships at your age in a major sport. I went back and looked at the Celtics in '86. He was running the team with 69. Connie Mack, 62 when the 1930 Philadelphia Athletics won the World Series. You don't see people this old running franchises at all. And so Jerry tried out the whole, I got energy, I can do this, do that, do that. But ultimately, in my mind, we're just watching Jerry do something that old people don't do. They just don't. The game is passing him by. And he owns the team so he can keep running it. But right now it's starting to go down that route of the way the Raiders ended with Al Davis before Al died.
Newey, when you heard the name of Brian Schottenheimer, obviously he's inside the organization, but when you heard that he actually might be the guy, what was your reaction than those around you?
He did a really good job of having some one-on-one conversations with people in the Jones family. That's how you go from being a guy who was not calling any plays to being the guy. Is you made them feel really, really comfortable.
So Newey, I mean, a lot's asked about like what are they going to change? They don't seem to see that outside of the head coach changing, which clearly was not their plan, that they need to change anything. Am I missing that?
Look, and this is the sad fact, and I hate this for the fan base. Nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. The owner is still the show. The owner is as big as any player. After a game, Mike McCarthy would talk, Jason Garrett would talk, and Jerry would talk, and there's more cameras on Jerry because people want to hear what he has to say. He is the show. And that's not changing. And until it changes, it won't, because no other team in professional sports is operating like the Cowboys and winning championships. Jerry's name is on the marquee. It's ahead of the marquee than some players are. And I just don't think that's the effective way to win championships. It's interesting because the Hunt family, Clark Hunt and his brother Dan, they all live in Dallas. You know, there's the most successful owners right now going in the game right now.
Yep.
Who actually own the franchise in Dallas that ran out the Kansas City Chiefs, who were the Dallas Texans that had to move up north.
Newey, Jerry likes to word salad a press conference. He likes to discuss how he risked buying the Cowboys or when he was in the oil business. And is it not just rinse and repeat no matter who he introduces as a head coach?
We know we're going to get this story time with Jerry. You know, we know it. I risked all I had. It was when I went and sat in the room with financial accountants and everyone. We were off camera. He threw about 5 Jerry stories of how he risked everything with the Cowboys. And then now one of the new ones he's adding to us is telling us that he's risked more in the last 5 years financially than he ever has in his life. And as I tried to kind of say, Jerry, you're not winning anything. You're not winning anything. And I also asked him about Brian Schottenheimer. I said, Jerry, what about the fact is that in the last 3 years that he's been here with you, nobody's called Brian Schottenheimer about a job. Nobody's wanted to interview him at all. And he kept talking about, well, he's got all this experience. He's got 20 years, 30 years of experience, but he's never won anything. He said, well, he's never been a head coach. I said, he didn't win anything as an assistant. When he was in Seattle, they didn't win anything. He was in Jacksonville, they didn't win anything. The Jets went to 2 AFC championship games, but I ended up talking to somebody who was up there, and they talked about how right before the half, they had 3rd and 11, and instead of running the ball to help run out the clock and get to the half shot, he let Mark Sanchez throw the ball, and he threw a pick, and they thought that Shotty was going to get fired after they ended up losing that AFC championship game, but he didn't, and he lived. But Shotty, good guy, fun to talk to, but the fan base is restless for a reason. There's a reason why Mike Flurry went on his podcast and said, I'm so effing hurt because Jerry hired him, not Beyonce.
Yeah, and there's I mean, he talks about risk. Obviously there's risk in hiring Dion if you do that. But I think the most risk of hiring Dion is that, Dion didn't share the marquee with people like Jerry, and I don't even think that's that might be a little of his thing, but Dion just does it because he's kind of earned that. Jerry, it's been so long. I don't think he understands the passage of time.
It's 29 years of a mediocre act. And that's the problem. And I touched on that again. Jerry, it's been 29 years. You have not won. And Jerry wants to talk about how I'm still getting up and I'm trying to do this. And Jerry, it's not working. And I thought Tim Kalishaw did enough. Hey, man, this is 7 head coaches. Most general managers don't get to name 7 head coaches, and you're still naming head coaches and you're not winning anything. But look, he's not going anywhere. I asked Jerry, are you going to retire anytime soon? He said no. Okay, so that leads me to believe that he's going to be like Al Davis. You're going to die in the job. And good luck, because you look at that schedule. Next year, they face the AFC West. Okay? Coach of that division has been to a Super Bowl with 3 of the coaches winning a Super Bowl. And then you face the NFC North, where 3 teams from the division went to the playoffs. Good luck. And you get Washington twice and Philadelphia twice. Man, that's 10 games against pretty good competition right there, man. Wow.
Newey, is this the lowest or frustrated you've seen the Cowboys fan base? Because they have been for a long, long time, but is right now the low point?
Yes, because the fan base was looking for some hope and they didn't get it. And then you add the fact that Dan Quinn, in his first year, ends up going to an NFC Championship game. And then you see Joe Witt Jr., who wanted to be the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, but Jerry didn't want him. You wanted Mike Zimmer instead, a part of that staff. And you see other players from the Cowboys go to Washington. You see that. And then here's Philadelphia, who's going to play for another Super Bowl. Yeah, you should be dejected because what you've been sold isn't good. And as bad as that Packers loss was in the playoffs the season before, had Jerry gone to the market, he could have hired Dan Quinn. He could have hired Bill Belichick. He could have hired Jim Harbaugh. There were guys out there to get a better crop of candidates, but Jerry waited a year, and then you tell him, hey, we're going to hire Brian Schottenheimer, who's never called any plays for the Cowboys, and Jerry went out of his way to make sure that we all knew that Schotty was calling plays at the press conference. And once again, if you go and you do the deep dive research and say, okay, Schotty, what have you won? You've been around all these people. And Jerry said, well, look at the great people he's been around. He's been around Pete Carroll. He's been around, he's been around Marty Schottenheimer. I'm like, oh, Marty never won anything. Pete Carroll won, but Schotty wasn't there for any of the winning. All the winning had passed. So it's just kind of, he's trying to spin it and sell it. But if you really want to help Brian Schottenheimer, go get him some players. Go into free agency and attack it. Actually, truly go all in this year. If you do that, then maybe you'll have an opportunity to help him. But the schedule is so hard for Brian Schottenheimer. It's going to be hard for anybody. And if they're talking about, hey, we're going to have problems with money and trying to pay Micah and this and that, good luck.
On Mike Zimmer, a very popular coach. I know he's been back and forth with the Cowboys. Did he leave or he's retiring because he didn't get the job, wasn't asked to get the job, or because McCarthy left? What's the deal there?
I think Zimmer, and from what I was talking to some media buzz, I think Zimmer was offended that he didn't even get a job interview. And here it is, a guy who was calling a defense, who's been a coordinator, who's been a head coach, and he can't even get an interview. Yeah, I'd be pretty upset too. But hey, he wasn't going to go work for Brian Schottenheimer. I'll tell you that. Clearly wasn't going to go do that. So he decided to take it to the house. But we saw Mike Zimmer last year showed you that he still knows how to coach him.
So Jerry's saying taking a risk on a guy who's never been a head coaching job before. Okay, but Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, any number, like, it didn't even have to be those two. You could go to any number of coordinators who are on the rise and talk to them. I mean, I guess Kellen Moore would have been the only one they did with that. But that just to me was like, you do know that, like, there are guys that maybe you haven't met, like, fully that would love to come there and talk to you. Or a guy, Aaron Glenn, who played for you under Parcells, would have probably loved to take that job too if you called him. We lost your volume there, Louis, for a second.
There you go.
Yep, you got it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Clarence Hill had talked about the process being rotten. And several people have talked about, wait a minute, you only talked to this small number of candidates. Jerry tried to spin that as well. The end of the day, they locked in on Schotty, and that's what they wanted to do. They missed the opportunity to talk to Ben Johnson and talk to Aaron Glenn, because I think that Jerry thought he was going to get something done with Mike McCarthy, and it didn't happen. So it seemed very much so as though they got caught not knowing what to do. They interviewed 10 people before they hired Wade Phillips, and they did it after Super Bowl. So he could take his time if he wanted to, but I think Schotty ended up having a really strong relationship with Stephen Jones and helped sell that to Jerry and everyone else in the organization. And now he's the head coach, but there's definitely a head-scratching moment about the whole process. I mean, why wasn't Deion Sanders given a full interview? And Jerry told us, well, you think I needed to really interview Deion? I know Deion. Like, yeah, you did need to interview him because you can know him all day long, but sitting down and talking with him and going over everything about, what he could bring to your program, that matters because you darn sure did it with Brian Schottenheimer and other people. So we hear a lot of stuff. There's a lot of spinning around here, and Jerry knows the fan base is mad. They tried to come up, with the best answers they could, but they know the process truly was kind of flawed.
Newey, last question from me is we heard that the crowds were down in Oxnard, that there was kind of a lethargic feeling there. You, of course, go there wherever they might be. And now you have this and a bad year. Yes, a lot of injuries, and then this hire. Do you think that there are millions upon millions of Cowboys fans? Someone's going to buy the jerseys. Someone's going to buy the tickets. Do you ever think we might see an actual blowback from them in a financial way?
We did during the Campo era. We did see that.
Yeah.
If full disclosure, Smokey, I didn't go out there last year. I was like, I don't want to go. I was like, I told him, I was like, I don't want to go because I'm going to hear the same old lies. They're going to tell me we like our guys. I could see then. And I said it all season long. You didn't do enough in the trenches to win. That run game had not been fixed. They didn't get the right type of talent that you needed. They let guys go. And same thing on the offensive line. You didn't fix it. And you cannot win in this league until you fix the trenches. Yes, the people were frustrated at Oxnard. They'll be the same thing this year. Brian Schottenheimer right now is not enough to move the needle, which is why I think the way he has to win the fan base back is going into free agency and getting some players that people say, okay, yeah. Could they draft running back Ashton Genty at 12 to get the fan base say, hey, we got a running back, here's some jerseys? Yeah, I can see that because Jerry more than anybody understands that these fans want to be entertained. And right now, the things they're doing are not entertaining anyone. Their past 2 first-round picks have not been good. So I expect them to try to make a splash with their first-round pick. I expect them to go into free agency and try to help the head coach because it's not his fault they haven't wanted to spend any money. It's not his fault that they had a process that people question, did you talk to all the best coaches out here? So to me, that's what Jerry has to do. He's got to go out himself and give people a reason to give a darn.
Well, they set Mike McCarthy up to fail this year by not doing anything to the roster.
Correct.
And that was kind of known from the beginning. But also, one of the things I thought, and I want your opinion on this, the ball's on Jerry to make the joke of when I see how much money head coaches make, and he's one of the ones who pays them the least in the entire league. I thought that was something.
I've covered the Lakers when Jerry Buss owned them, and I've covered the Cowboys with Jerry. These were the 2 cheapest owners when it came to coaches. They didn't value coaching. They didn't value people who could manage. I mean, Jerry West left the Lakers over money. And that always made me scratch my head. It was by far the best general manager in the league and a guy who helped keep Kobe and Shaq together. But Buss didn't want to pay him, so he ended up leaving. And here's Jerry, the same thing. He didn't want to pay, but what's wild is he'll pay certain people. He paid Jason Garrett almost as much money as Wade Phillips to stay, and he paid Dan Quinn, head coach, money to stay. But that regular head coach, for some reason, man, he likes to balk at paying. We all know Brian Schottenheimer had no leverage here, so the Cowboys got a deal that was really, tilted toward them.
And I said last thing, but what was the overall mood after the press conference, Newey? Like everybody kind of staring, looking at each other, like rolling their eyes. What?
Well, see, here's the difference. Okay, the 3 of us have been to enough of these, and we're like, all right, okay, all right, man, yeah, kind of what we thought. Some of the new ones, they don't. I remember one guy. I always say, "Man, Jerry's really emotional, man. I mean, he's crying. I thought that was big. I was like, dude, he did that when Wade was hired. Okay, I mean, he's done this a few times now. Like, if you've been around the block like we have, this ain't new. Jerry knows the fan base. The natives are restless. The fans are mad. So Jerry go tear up a little bit, make you think, oh, gosh, I'm trying. I care as much as you do. No, don't leave me. Yeah, but ultimately, like I said, Brian is a good guy. I like Brian. But Brian is going to have some of the same issues that Mike McCarthy's had. They got money that they're not spending. They're not making the moves in free agency they need to. And Brian's going to look like he's a puppet. He was also asked about Jason Witten. Will Jason Witten be on the staff? And right now, Jerry said no, and he wasn't ready to make any staff announcements. But if I'm Brian Schottenheimer, I darn sure don't want Jason Witten on my staff.
Newey, thank you, buddy. Enjoy the day getting ready for you telling the story in the DFW area with your station. Thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate
All right, take care, guys. God bless.
Newey Scruggs, NBC5, and with us. And, yeah, like people have been around the block. He did cry when he said, I get it. I get it when he hired Wade Phillips. And maybe because he hires Brian Schottenheimer and he knows what's on the line, maybe that will, okay, let's go get this guy some talent. Don't be mad at Brian Schottenheimer, by the way, if in fact you're like, screw Brian Schottenheimer. It's not his fault. It's not his family's fault. He's getting the chance of a lifetime, and it happens to be with the Cowboys. I wish the guy the best. I really do. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but imagine where he is, and he is told this a long time ago. Whoever can get Jerry in the room and catch his attention is usually going to be the one that then gets the big meal. Whether it's for making a trade or picking up a free agent or signing a free, whatever. And so Brian Schottenheimer did his job. Good for him. And who knows, maybe he can be, his dad was really good, but he also lost a bunch of big games along the way. So there we are with the Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer. Jerry on a long pause, and a lot of what you listen to with him, in the end, he never answers questions. Very rarely does he answer questions. When you ask a question at a press conference, it's a lot of other stuff, and it's like 45 seconds to 3 minutes later, he still hasn't answered the question. All right, what do you want to do here?
We can take a break, but I'll say I was at the Mike McCarthy press conference, and he said he heard bells. I guess also when you're in your late 70s and early 80s, sometimes when you hear bells, that's just tinnitus.
See, that's it. That might be the case. When we come back, we'll also look at the Big 12 men's basketball over the weekend and a little bit more about Super Bowl 59, this is the off week. A lot of people get a lot of things done. Tickets for families, the itinerary, travel plans, get all of that out of the way. And then next week, they arrive in New Orleans for that game. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How does he do that? You contact him. He doesn't know he's got a business. He's got a lot of different customers, clients, patients. So if you have an energy that's just not the same, and it's not because you're sick, your focus is getting worse. Nothing could be worse than mine. And then, of course, you might have issues when it comes to your sex drive, ED, and many other things that can just start to be affected when your testosterone level starts to drop. It usually happens, if it does, 1 out of every 3 or 4 men, when you get into your maybe late 30s and especially up into your 40s, near the 50s, and that can happen. It's part of life, part of father time. Contact them, PettyClinicalOT.com. Tell them I sent you. They will send you to get your blood work, get the results, get back with you if it's too low, your testosterone level, and give you the option for an option to increase your testosterone levels, to be the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicalOT.com.
It's time to start something new at Allen Samuels. Drive into 2025 with huge savings on all of our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles, from a trail-conquering Jeep Grand Cherokee, towing in style with a Ram Heavy Duty, or cruising the city in a sporty and luxurious Ram 1500, we've got the perfect ride for you. Stop by Allen Samuels in Waco, where we make car buying easy.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
I'll never get used to this.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, here we go. Big 12 men's basketball and college basketball in general over the weekend. We're starting to get now a nice little run on when conferences, the leadership, up games, down, you got to get hot, whatever, huge games. There was a lot of them over the weekend. None better. I just could not stop watching Kansas and Houston. Kansas was up 6, 70 seconds left at home, regulation. Houston sent that game into overtime. Kansas was up 6 with 10 seconds left in overtime. Game is over. Houston sent the game into double overtime. There was a pass, an inbounds pass that was stolen. It was a great, a guy reached behind and kind of batted it away. They hit the three. This was Kelvin Sampson, Bill Self, 2 Hall of Fame coaches, 2 really good teams. Houston has not lost this year in the conference. Kansas now has 3 conference losses. And this, to me, was a phenomenal game, no matter who'd have won it. And what a huge win for Houston on the road.
Houston is so flippin' good. And there's no drop-off from last year at all. They haven't lost a game. The last time they lost in the Big 12 was in that building last year. They haven't lost a Big 12 game since then. Sharp was unbelievable at the end of the game, just dead-eye, nailing 3 after 3 after 3. And the thing is that Kansas in that game, like Rylan Griffin finally came out of his shell and was scoring. A.J. Storr was playing, Zeke Mayo, all the new guys. And it was the veterans, DeJuan Harris, and a little bit Hunter Dickinson on that inbound there that let him down. But, yeah, I think that Flory Badunga, he was fun to watch. But even though he was great, Jawan Roberts, just that southpaw hook shot and all the things he was doing.
Smooth as silk.
Just absolutely killed him. And I know that Bill Self's got to be kicking himself after that game because they had 3 or 4 opportunities to put it away and didn't.
Yeah, Jawan Roberts is a special player and big free throws there at the end of regulation, which I mentioned that because otherwise the free throw shooting sucked between these two teams, like garbage free throw shooting, which is just I don't know, that just sounds like such an old man thing to get upset about. Upset's definitely not the right word, but it's just it's just crazy to me that guys can't shoot free throws. It's just crazy. It's literally free points, and guys have a very difficult time with that. But it was besides that Roberts was awesome, as you mentioned, and Houston's awesome. To be 8-0 in the Big 12, all of the talk about the schools joining 3 years ago and then even 2 years ago with the PAC schools, and the PAC schools, obviously, Arizona is the cream of the crop there. We knew that coming in. But we also knew that Houston was going to be a big deal in terms of being a potential basketball power, and they've lived up to that so far. Obviously you want to see them go win another national title for the league and play in the Final Four and do all of those things. But as far as adjustments, and in particular, you see what they've had to do and maneuver around and change when it comes to football, and they're still trying to get their bearings there. But basketball's been no problem whatsoever. They've just slid in and belonged and been great. And so, to be 8-0 in the Big 12, I think is pretty damn impressive. And for Kansas to already have 3 losses, I mean, they're flirting with 500 if they're not careful, is also pretty crazy, but for different reasons. So
2 of them at Fog Allen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so they're sitting there in 5th or 6th now at this point, not something they can't overcome, but you've dug yourself a bit of a hole. I mean, Houston, for example, is 3 games up on you. By their lonesome. Iowa State's a couple games up on you. Amongst some Arizona's a couple games up on you. They've got to dig a little bit, but what a great game. What a great finish by the Cougars to get that one done, signed, sealed, and delivered. To do it in Lawrence, even more impressive. And just Kelvin Sampson's such a great coach, man. He really is. And Houston has certainly carried their weight when it's come to the men's basketball side of things these last couple of years.
So, huge win for Houston. 3 games up on KU in the Big 12 standings alone. Jerome Tang and Kansas State, they've been in a free fall, lots of pressure. Nobody's happy. He's not happy. They lost at Baylor last week. I remember the press conference. We played a couple of comments, and I remember a couple of guys responded to me on Twitter about when Scott Drew went in the locker room to kind of give K-State a pep talk, and it doesn't matter because Coach Tang sucks. He doesn't know anything about basketball. Everyone's going to have their, opinions on that. They just smoked West Virginia, dictated the game pretty much from start to finish. A huge win. And you never know when 1 could equal 3, but at the same time, they could revert back to what was creating the problem they had in the first place. A great win for K-State. Baylor goes to Salt Lake City. They take care of business. They were expected to. They swept Utah during the regular season, home and away. And this note on Norshad Omier. Scott Drew put this up as he is one of 13 players in NCAA basketball history to have those stats, points and rebounds. And he's been a rebound machine, but also puts up big points. A huge, huge lift for them winning that K-State game because that one was dicey until there was about 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, I think Baylor, as they stand right now, with VJ Edgecombe and Norshad Omier and Rob Wright kind of being the trinity that kind of stirs the drink there, is maybe the best thing for this team. I know you want your depth and you want Roach and Love back because they're injured and they're good players, but with a guy that has as much talent as VJ Edgecombe, maybe they were, progress stopping him a little bit, or, having to fit within that. But when you've got a guy who can score like that, sometimes you just got to go, all right, you're the chef, go make me something, and you'll be happy with whatever comes out. That's just kind of how it is. And, I just talking about Bill Self and DeJuan Harris a second ago, sometimes you got veterans that can be a little bit of progress stoppers for the young guys. We can call it the Graham Mertz rule at Florida. Billy Napier, that didn't, Graham Mertz had to get hurt for him to play DJ Lagway full time, and that's worked out. Sometimes you can get a little bit too stuck in the mud with veteran players because you have some stars behind them. I think, Baylor's showing that right now.
You got some guys who aren't expected to be around very long to begin with. Maximize them while you got them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're your big money, big star, one-and-done type players for a reason. They need to be one-and-done caliber talents or close to that. So, ride the young guys if that's what wins you games. I mean, at this point, do whatever it takes to drum up some interest and excitement. So if that's more Omier and who else did you mention there?
That was it.
Okay.
Yep.
So Omier taking over and taking the reins and running with it, then let him run. Let him.
I talked about VJ.
Thank you. I knew somebody else mentioned VJ Edgecombe. Yeah.
Now he not only can he spread his wings and fly, if he doesn't, they're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is what you should see, what you want to see, what you need to see, and so it's good. And hopefully those guys are starting to hit a little bit of a stride and can help carry this team to the postseason and competitive games in the Big 12 down the stretch. Obviously, big win for Baylor. I mean, they needed that, and I think there's at least a little bit of optimism now based on what you've seen here recently. But for K-State, they desperately needed that. I know it probably doesn't change most opinions on Jerome Tang. If you're a K-State fan, you've kind of, maybe made up your mind already one way or the other, especially in the midst of that losing streak. But they really needed that one, and that was just a bad first half for West Virginia. I mean, my God, talk about digging yourself a damn hole. Down, was it 42 to 18 at halftime, I think, something along those lines. Yeah, they drop out of the top 25, which is not what you want to see. But Tech jumped in there, and they made a big splash into the back end of the top 25. So they basically replaced West Virginia for you in so many ways as far as just the league goes. But, yeah, it was a very entertaining weekend of Big 12 hoops. It doesn't feel like the league has that sort of what's the right word? The swagger that's typically had. There is some. It doesn't feel like they're leading the way.
They have 4 teams ranked in the top 25. That's you would think that they probably have had 6, 7, or 8 in years past.
The SEC's better.
Yes.
So there's not that level of this is the best conference in America and all these teams are national title contenders. I don't sense that right now, but there are some teams that are pretty damn good and could be very exciting, all the way into March. So it's a fun league, and there was a couple really interesting games for certain this past weekend.
I'll tell you who had a bad weekend. A&M men's basketball led Texas by 22. I was playing a round of golf, and I glanced at the Gamecast, didn't keep up with it, didn't get to watch it, and then here comes Texas chipping away. Trey Johnson was phenomenal. He was VJ Edgecombe for them, having a huge game.
That's a one and done if I've ever seen one. My God.
And then he and A&M was just you could see them slipping off the edge of a cliff. And then Texas hits the game-winning shot with 3 seconds left. A&M free throw shooting was a problem. It's a nice win, no question, a huge win, because I think Texas would have dropped to 2-5 in the SEC, and now they're right back at 3-4.
Man. I would hate to be an A&M fan and have Texas in the SEC. I mean, man, that sucks. Things are going so well, even though there's you have a loss here and there, but at least you didn't have to lose to those guys. And now, between football and men's basketball, it's just
they drilled Texas earlier in the year, but that game there,
I cannot wait for baseball, though.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great.
I've never been more excited for anything. There's no more fun cheering in sports than fans cheer for spite. It's going to be great.
And sure, it's made things a lot more interesting, and ticket sales are probably better and all of that, but damn, just knowing what it's like to be on the other end of some of those brutal losses. They've had a couple of them since Texas has arrived that you're just not this again. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So that was definitely a negative, that result. But yeah, you're right. Got them earlier, but still between that and football, it's just that's a double whammy of big wins by the Longhorns as this thing starts to get back underway. So yeah, good win for Texas. And obviously there's a pretty big game tonight in the Big 12.
Is there?
Yeah. Iowa State and Arizona.
Mm-hmm. And Iowa State,
those little upstarts.
Yeah, kind of a big game. Iowa State and Arizona in Tucson, 9:30 tip-off tonight. Arizona's favored, and that's a pretty damn big game. Despite the fact that Arizona's not ranked right now, they're at home and they've got the number 3 team in the country on a Monday night. So that ought to be a hell of a game there at McHale. Looking forward to that one.
Iowa State ranked, I think they stayed 3rd in the country in the top 25, and they are just so good. They really are. They've won a couple of games after they lost that game at West Virginia. And then, of course, West Virginia, as I mentioned, lost to K-State. Arizona beat 2 teams they should beat, UCF and Arizona State. That game will tip off tonight. ESPN, I think that's an 8:30 tip on ESPN between Arizona, maybe a 9:30 tip on ESPN between Arizona and also Iowa State. Paul, tell me about what's going on with the Florida basketball coach who was under investigation. I think somebody else on his staff was too. Florida has closed its Title IX investigation, Todd Golden, with no evidence found, and so he continues on. Florida, obviously, a pretty good team.
He was accused of stalking someone, and the Title IX office conducted many interviews and found no evidence. Having covered this here in the past, I don't know what any of that means coming from a Title IX office. Every school kind of has their own thing, and it's really kind of – but he's cleared. I mean, that's just it. That's what we just need to accept. I mean, whether side of this issue you're on, he's cleared, and that they can move on with their season. They're doing really, really well. And that was after a year where the athletic department was kind of thrown into chaos between football and basketball with this. But now it looks like it's full steam ahead to kind of move on. And, nobody really knows the details of what happened. It was an accusation. Title IX office didn't find anything, so moves on.
I want to bring up something that's not political, but it's societal. If somebody accuses somebody of something like this and they're found to be innocent, the person being accused innocent, where is the line of accusations of sexual assault?
But see, that's where I get confused on these things, and I don't know how to feel because
that's why I'm asking it.
Because here's the deal: Title IX, like we saw it here, Title IX offices don't operate under the auspices of anything other than the university guidelines that the U.S. government gave them. Like the basically what they did with the Title IX rules was they said, here are the basic things you have to do. You figure out how to do this at your own university. And then each university does it different. So does Florida have a good Title IX office, a mediocre one, or a bad one? I have no idea. So, and also, like, this is the university adjudicating this. This is not any kind of, law enforcement situation, which this didn't get to that point. But in cases of things like this, sometimes it doesn't. So it's just a really confusing situation that, again, I just think that I don't know how to feel, so it's hard to even say, to answer your question, Smokey, about where the line is, because every case is its own thing. And when it comes to Title IX, who has, again, no subpoena power, none of all this stuff the universities have, adjudicating this stuff out, I don't know, and I've said many times, again, having gone through it very painfully here, watching what Baylor was doing, like we went through saw through all that. We didn't go through it personally. We just covered it when it was happening. I don't know if they're good or not. I mean, I just know that Baylor wasn't good at it. They're better now because they did it. I don't know if Florida's good at it. I don't know if Idaho's good at it or Cal or whoever, because it's all different everywhere. I mean, it's not like going to a franchise that like, okay, I know that they do this well here. Nobody is all different everywhere. It's just, that's why it's such a mess all over the place.
All right, so we got a couple of the college football notes. We'll get to that, including Florida State and a 5-star quarterback. General managers' salaries continue to go up and up and up. A local high school coach gets a college job along with a former Baylor, TCU, Tulsa, and more defensive backs coach who we've known for quite some time. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club, they just had that kind of that open wellness health type of event where people had a chance to visit with various vendors, and they, of course, have memberships available. Inside McLean Stadium, just off I-35 on the Brazos River, the Baylor Club. Great food, cuisine, specials. They'll let you know. You can go to their Facebook page and look around for what's next, whether it's on Friday when they have prime rib and or a lot of seafood, or it's something that's a little bit different that you have at lunch. It could be soup, sandwiches, and a buffet. And, of course, they always have an unbelievable array of what you want when it comes to desserts, too. They have great chefs, a couple of fantastic chefs, and those who assist them. Memberships available, but tell them you are a subscriber, viewer, watcher, listener, however you want to say it, of 365 Sports, and they will also offer you a discount for your initiation fee and perhaps a month or two of dues. But tell them I sent you, and we sent you at 365 Sports. Mike Mosel, the general manager.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford. Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Thank you to Alan Samuels House of Travel. They are our travel sponsor for 365 Sports. They have been at Super Bowls, Big 12 Media Days, and also at other events, too. We appreciate them. They will be the ones that set us up, fly us down into New Orleans, set us up in a beautiful Airbnb for our stay in New Orleans next week.
Bring me the whole thing of Mother's, just the whole, like, start to finish type of meal, if you wouldn't mind.
Is that the chicken?
No, Mother's is the po' boys and what do you get at Mother's?
I don't even remember. I got like an everything seafood platter.
Yeah.
Like that's what I got.
Yeah, I never know like what to get when I walk in there. I'll have a plan. Like I'm gonna get the roast beef po' boy with the fair D. Like I'm gonna do all that, and then I get up there and I'm like, no, I want crawfish etouffee and this and that. Like
so you panic.
Yeah, I panic. I go in there with a plan, and then I'm like, well, what if I walk out? What if I die tomorrow and I didn't have that etouffee one last time? I'll be up in heaven going, hey, do you guys have etouffee up here? And they're like, yeah, not here. You know, we can't make it. You know, like they do. You know, so.
Well, it's been a big month. They always say the terrorist attack, host the national championship game, now the Super Bowl right around, and I think that's one of the best host cities in America for anything. That's why they get everything. Feels like the national championship went off without a hitch after the attack. Man, that was just such a terrible, awful, ugly thing. But it seems like they've been able to get back on track, I guess, if you will, as best they can, and didn't have any problems after that. And that's a great city and a fun city. And I'd imagine the two fan bases rolling in are going to make that a hopping place. I mean, it always is, but those are two pretty big damn fan bases.
Yep.
Very proud fan bases. I think there's going to be some scenes on Bourbon Street and all around the French Quarter, et cetera, with those two fan bases. So, yeah, there ought to be a lot of hype. Both of them probably feel like they're the best, and I think they are probably the two best teams when it all boiled down to it. Kansas City just incredibly consistent, and Philadelphia incredibly strong in their own right. So I'm looking forward to it. That Saquon versus that Chiefs defense, the quarterback duel. There's going to be a lot of fun storylines, even if it is again, a matchup where you get a lot of, I think, fatigue from fans, who are kind of in the middle, like we talked about earlier. But I think by the time we roll around to it, it'll be as big of a damn deal as it typically is, and ought to be a hell of a week in New Orleans.
Well, there's a little bit of a kind of an after the games are over, and that's one of the reasons that extra week is. There were games played immediately, Super Bowls right after the championship games, a lot, and then they had this little buffer zone. It'll pick back up because of the trying to win history with KC, trying to win 3 in a row. Think about all the great teams that won 2 in a row. There's not a lot that did, but the Packers with Lombardi, and then he decides to move into retirement, unfortunately, passes away a couple of years later after coaching at Washington. Pittsburgh won, 4 of 6, back-to-back twice. The Cowboys in the 90s were fantastic, and then they had the interruption with Jimmy Johnson leaving. They still were good. So you've had, and of course the Patriots have had it on the verge of trying to win 3 in a row many different times.
And y'all, I'm sure will bring this up quite a bit. I brought up Kelsey and Mahomes, but I also have to remember Andy Reid. That old helmet behind Paul Catalina there, or to the side of Paul Catalina. Andy Reid didn't play in the Big 12, but has his own ties as well to BYU, of course. So, there's some flavor whenever the Chiefs play, in particular, with their 3 big heads of the franchise, faces of the franchise, actually all have ties, even though only one of them actually played in the Big 12. But still, that's pretty cool.
Yep,
they had 13. Patrick Mahomes had 13 wins at Texas Tech as a starter.
Yeah.
Like it's in Cliff Kingsbury here in the coaching in the NFC Championship game, and
I felt bad about not bringing that up on Friday. We probably should have amplified that a bit more. That you had Kingsbury on one side and Mahomes on the other. So it was a big weekend for Texters.
And with Kingsbury, like somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, like, why couldn't Kingsbury win with him at quarterback? Was Mahomes just not good? I was like, no. If you watched Mahomes, it was never about Mahomes. It was they just had an aversion to stopping people completely.
I'll tell you what the problem was is that Patrick, his numbers, when you look at him now, especially, I think Jalen Hurts suffered from this as well. Do you remember Jalen Hurts had that monster year at Oklahoma? But what happened before that? What preceded all of that? Baker Mayfield had a huge year, won the Heisman Trophy. Kyler Murray had huge years, won the Heisman Trophy. So then Jalen Hurts rolls around. He comes over from Alabama, and I think he got damaged by, it's a system thing. So we can't have 3 Heisman quarterbacks from Oklahoma. That's just a system thing, right? I think he got hurt by that. And I think Patrick, you go back and actually look at his real numbers at Texas Tech, like you go, wait a second, why wasn't he talked about more? It's because their defense was atrocious. And so he was having to throw for seemingly what felt like 1,000 yards every game and 5 touchdowns, and they'd still lose. The numbers and the performance was there. He wasn't like not good or anything. It was just that what was around him wasn't good enough to balance that out and turn it into winning football consistently enough. And so, the numbers and all that was still all there. It just got overshadowed because people look at box scores and Texas Tech lost again. Oh, well, they lost again. They didn't make a bowl game. And it's like, but that quarterback was still doing his damn thing. I know that much. I know that was the last time he played Baylor at Jerry's World, and he had 5 or 6 touchdowns, and it was just he's just throwing it up, and he's doing what we were going to see years later, and it felt like pure luck. It's just like, how are these dudes just running free, and how is he always finding them? And then you just keep watching the guy, and you're like, oh, well, that's just what he does. He's just that special that he's able to see the field and find guys like that. But when you're watching it originally, you're like, man, our defense sucks. And like Phil Bennett, how much criticism did he get when it's like, no, let's rewind. Let's revisit this. That's Patrick effing Mahomes. That's why the defense looks like it sucked. It was more so Patrick Mahomes is like finding spots in the defense. But he got overshadowed because of the fact that the rest of the team wasn't as good. That's really all it was.
They had no defense. He won his last game. It was almost like a bloodletting because there was games that he put up big numbers but didn't beat them. And then 54-35, 586 yards and 6 touchdowns. And just a monstrous game for him. You always saw it, Craig. You saw it even in high school. There was a play last week in the playoff game when he was falling down and he was like leaning towards the like the 15 or 20-yard line, and he found a way to hit a receiver like he's almost ready to hit his knees. He is a magician with what he does.
I think the most annoying thing if you're watching him rooting against him is that nobody gets a good lick on him ever, or at least it doesn't feel that way because he's so damn big. So it's like even when he gets hit, it just kind of it's mutual. You know what I mean? It's not like he ever just gets knocked on his ass that you see very often. If anything, he delivers the blows sometimes. So he's built like a freaking Mack truck, and he's obviously got an unbelievable feel and vision for the game, and has all the arm talent in the world. I mean, yeah, and then he can run, and it's frustrating because you don't feel like he should be able to run as well as he does, but he is way more athletic than you realize and quicker than you realize. And so, yeah, I mean, if you watched him long enough, I've been watching him since White House High School. It's all there, and it hadn't changed much, but it's just so damn good that it's just hard to kind of wrap your head around sometimes of just how good. So you go to, oh, what's the officials? Or, oh, it was this defense sucked. Or, oh, they choked. And it's like there was some elements of that yesterday, obviously. There was some elements of officiating. There were some elements of, hey, the Bills kind of sucked in some regard. But, yeah, I'm not taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes. That dude's probably the GOAT when all is said and done. Certainly the path he's on right now, he's heading that direction very quickly.
Who was the most effective runner among the quarterbacks yesterday? Mahomes had a run very early in the game and looked good doing it. Bobby Stroop will join us at 5. It's not his 40-yard speed or 40 meters, whatever. He finds a way. Usually there's a scramble where he gets away and gets 8 to 12 yards when he needs 7 or 11 yards.
Usually on third down, and it pisses you off.
And a drive that maybe ties or wins the game. He did that a couple of times. How about the touchdown run where there he is for everybody to, like, knock the hell out of him, and he kind of powered into the end zone.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't take a big hit hardly ever.
Yeah, he knows. It's like he just naturally knows how to just get, as opposed to getting 100%, he gets like 85. So, none of that.
Big body, man.
Yeah, it's the big body and just the way he, just knows how to move away from it. But, I actually think that that's the biggest reason that the Bills keep losing to the Chiefs, because if you look at every single one of these losses, there's a moment in the game where they've got every receiver covered and they forget that Patrick Mahomes isn't like slow. Like he's not Hurts, Daniels, or Allen, but he's certainly also not Dan Marino back there. And that if you just need 10 yards, well, if there's 10 yards, you're not going to beat him to the sticks, and he just gets there. Those are the plays that keep killing them. It's not some ridiculous throw he makes all the time. A lot of times it's just, hey, you got all the receivers covered. Travis Kelce's in jail. You can't get him.
Go.
Oh, okay, first down anyway. And then that's the gut punch, and then the next play is when Kelce scores his 4th touchdown of the game or whatever it is.
It's always a critical scramble at a critical moment that keeps the drive alive. And yesterday I thought that they kind of let him do that. He had 43 yards. Allen had 39. And how many times Buffalo lined up with that push play? I mean, he barely, in fact, even the controversial call, whatever you want to think about the spot, they didn't just run that right down KC's throat. You know why? They knew it was coming. Yeah, when Jalen Hurts is coming, it's a different animal. And Washington, in fact, tried to do everything they could to like disrupt that play and couldn't do it. But Mahomes does make plays with his legs. He doesn't get enough credit for that, I don't think. Speaking of which, Garrett, do you have the NFL rule? I did not know this when I heard the official say this, that if a team purposely or what they think is purposely trying to interrupt plays and or someone from scoring, they could actually award the offense a touchdown. I did not know that this rule existed. Did not know.
I didn't.
So y'all are referring, let's be clear, to the Commanders-Eagles game yesterday.
Yeah. And Frankie Louvu kept trying to.
Well, what else are you supposed to do?
I don't know. Like that's
what's wrong?
I'm watching. I'm watching.
That's why the best answer to yesterday, sure everybody who watches this already seen it. Frankie Louvu keeps trying to time the snap. He keeps clearly going off, crossing the line of scrimmage, to the point of it being ridiculous. To the point the officials say, if you do that again, here's a warning. We're just going to award the Eagles the points. I agree with multiple people I saw afterwards. You should have made them do that. You should have made them do that to show how absurd that is. That the only way to stop that is to time it perfectly. Mm-hmm. So basically you're telling them you can't even try to time it because you keep jumping off sides. You keep doing that, we're going to give them points. You should have made them give them points to show how absurd that rule is, because what else, to the point, are you supposed to do? Not play defense?
Yeah.
And just let them the only way to stop that is to time it perfectly. They did it earlier in the game. They stuffed them earlier in the game.
Yep.
So the only way to do it is to do that. And so you just said you're not allowed to do that because otherwise we're going to give them points. So what are you supposed to do if you're the defender in this situation? I think you should have, if Washington had their head on and it wasn't in the midst of the heat of battle, Dan Quinn should have been like, you know what? Give them the points and let that be the absurd moment that we see replayed forever and ever of the officials having to say, we're giving Philadelphia points because Washington's defense is playing too hard.
I didn't think of that one time, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thought like, my thought was, well, what's an interesting rule? But
I want to read the rule.
But the Frankie Louvu, like, what are you gonna do when this play? First of all, you've got a quarterback who can squat more than any quarterback in the history of the NFL. Yeah. So it's pretty unique because everybody else has tried to do this, and some of them just can't because their quarterbacks don't have Jalen Hurts' like gigantic
thighs,
tree trunk legs that he has. So you have that, but it's two guys pushing this dude with gigantic tree trunk legs behind him, sometimes three, to get him over. Well,
who's behind five guys who weigh 300-plus pounds.
The biggest offensive line in the league.
Well, Saquon ain't no slouch either.
So, like, you've got a big dude and all these big dudes just throwing you at, like.
Here's the rule. I want you to listen to what it actually says. The defense shall not commit successive or repeated fouls to prevent a score. What in the hell's their job? It's to prevent a score.
Well, I think that's a loophole there because that's clearly like if you sit there and you keep running into the line of scrimmage intentionally, but Frankie Louvu wasn't doing it. He was just trying to time the play.
Yep.
So that's why I think, benefit of hindsight, you should have just, if you were Dan Quinn, be like, yeah, make them say that they're giving Philadelphia points because Washington's, won't stop trying to stop this thing because they had no other choice. That was the only thing they could do other than just lay their arms down. And, so we saw what inevitably happened. But, yeah, I wish they would have just kept doing it and made the NFL have a highlight that they never intended on having.
For successive or repeated fouls to prevent a score, if the violation is repeated after a warning, the score involved is awarded to the offensive team.
And this is also controversial because of the fact that there is all of the talk about Philadelphia in particular and the tush push or how do they refer to it? It's not that. But there is a lot of talk about that. And I did see some conversation on, maybe it was one of the message boards or something, about like that's also how you get that rule changed is you force them to say, all right, we're giving the team points. And then the owners in the offseason go, wait a second. So we can't this thing's nearly unstoppable as it is. Now you're telling them, we can't even try to stop it at the goal line. So, maybe that would have been a way to open the door to trying to get that type of a play changed to where it's not such an automatic for – you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I get it. The Redskins – Commanders players in the postgame, when they were asked about that, said, we're trying to make a play. And, that's about the only way is if you leap over the crowd and maybe hit Jalen Hurts in the helmet, and then you get hit a 15-yard penalty or half the distance. We're trying to make a play. And it really, I'd never heard that rule before. And was it it wasn't Gene Steratore. Who was it? The guy that was with that broadcast, the officials, he said that. And I was like, what? And yes, it's in the rule book. It's in the rule book.
I mean, there has to be something that you can award points because I'm sure if there's not, then Bill Belichick would have found a way to just go all right, we're just going to do this until they give up and call a different play.
Yeah, I just think that was so much in the spirit of the game, though, that it wasn't like Washington was trying to be a problematic child or something of we're just going to ruin this game flow and we're going to keep jumping off sides intentionally. It wasn't intentional. That was the thing, is they were legit trying to do the only thing they could to try and get his unlikely stop. But, it turned into a whole thing, and a lot of people learning about this bizarre scenario that we didn't think even existed. Wouldn't have any reason to believe that it did until yesterday of, oh, wow, the officials can award points in this situation, that's interesting. I think a lot of people learned that lesson yesterday.
There's another rule in this little batch that Garrett put up. Intentional fouls to manipulate the game clock. A team may not commit multiple fouls during the same down in an attempt to manipulate the game clock. The penalty is for multiple fouls to run off time from the game clock. Loss of 15 yards and the game clock will be reset to where it was at the snap. After the penalty is enforced, the game clock will then start on the next snap. Wasn't it Vrabel who manipulated the game clock because of a rule that used against Belichick about a substitution or something? It was like in the last couple of years or whenever he was, I guess, at Tennessee. So, man, you can dig into that rule book, and I never heard that before. Touchdown. So I just wish you would have done it again. Like you said, Craig, do it again. At least, my God, you're trying to make a play. But that I don't know if that play is completely unstoppable or how many times they've actually not made it on a fourth or goal or one or whatever it is, but I've only seen it probably stop once or twice. And that's with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley going off in that game. The running game was phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. Carlton Buckles, he coached at Baylor, Tulsa, TCU's taking the job as the passing game coordinator at Louisiana Tech, as has, I mentioned his name last week in a quote about Paul Gonzalez, the new cornerbacks coach at Baylor. Josh Creech, who's the defensive coordinator at Midway High School here in Waco, he also got a job as the linebackers coach at Louisiana Tech.
It's interesting. I didn't know that about Coach Creech, so that's a big step up going from high school to the college ranks. And I didn't even see the was Buckles dismissed? Did he leave on his own?
I think he had an opportunity.
Okay,
yeah,
well, good for him. I just didn't see the transaction wire for him. So when you mentioned that, I was just kind of caught off guard. But yeah, I always enjoyed his interviews. It seems like forever ago now at this point, because it was. I mean, that was over 10 years ago now that he was last in Waco. So always enjoyed him nevertheless, and I know he's had a very successful career. So it seems like a couple of nice hires for Sonny Cumbie down there in Ruston.
Yeah, Carlton Buckles, one of the dudes. We have to know him on that staff that was so good as at TCU, and as I mentioned with Coach Montgomery, Philip Montgomery, when he was at Tulsa. Now, this is not a tweet or anything about it, but I want to get into this. Who was it? Was it Notre Dame that lost their general manager or personnel guy to USC?
Yep. Chad Bowden. Yeah.
Matt Zenitz, who is really good. He's not one that likes to get on shows. He's probably on. I've invited him on. He just likes to do his job. The money numbers for college football general managers and personnel staffers continues to go up, and rightfully so. There are now at least 5 college football GMs who are making $700,000 or more, and more coming soon, and also few now making. Also a few more now making 7 figures. James Blanchard, who's at Texas Tech, one of the highest paid general managers, and you're starting to see that commitment. What used to be an analyst job or used to be like a recruiting coordinator's job, now that's like in a separate category, and the money there, which was head coaching job money, right? Coordinator money. And now you have, what's the Penn State defensive coordinator knows, $3.3 million a year on average?
Yeah,
we can't pay the players, though.
Yeah.
You can't pay the player. Can't afford it. But, yeah, they just talk out both sides of their mouth sometimes. Yeah. It's just like, come on.
Although I did see the Columbus Dispatch reported today that Ohio State's athletic department operated a $37 million deficit.
Well, they spend more than anybody.
Yeah, so.
I mean, they legitimately do spend more than – last I saw, they were like the highest spending. Texas was probably up there. A&M was up there. But I think Ohio State was like the top spending program.
Yeah, but – they need to create general manager positions, because as this gets more and more professionalized, coaches aren't going to be the ones who need to do the recruiting anymore. You know, like it's going to have to be more like professional sports, where a general manager goes and is the one who does this and who operates this. Part of the problem with the calendar is that the coaches have to do all this recruiting. Like, they need to figure out a way where they can take a lot of that off the road and have them focus on coaching, so that most of their life isn't spent talking to 100 high school kids who are not going to come to their school. Like, that's the thing I think has got to be painful about recruiting is you're going to go and talk to 100 kids every year and like on and on and on and on and on, and then it's for nothing. It's for nothing. Like, I sat and talked to this little turd all this time, and he went to Boston College. Like,
Yeah, but the portal, man, you got to.
I know you got to do it, but
swing back around
again. And so, like, now you can't even move on from that kid that you wasted all this time with. You've got to go back and make sure that you're still cool in case he's like, oh man, it's cold as shit up here. I gotta leave. And so I think they've got to take some of that off the burden of the coaches and allow them to coach and recruit in spots as opposed to being, hey, you've got to go get, your quota's 10 players, your quota's 10, whatever it is. Go get these guys.
I don't know how they keep up with it, but they do.
Yeah.
I'm just interested
whatever.
who the first one that's like a high-profile firing, like a regular NFL GM. Like, hey, Howie Roseman's out in Philadelphia or whatever. Like, who's going to be James Blanchard's out in Lubbock?
News for me. I mean, nothing against.
What's not happening, Paul?
So he's just so good at his job.
Why would you fire the best general manager building a roster the way he does? He's just using that as an example.
I kind of hope he throws coffee in Jeff Lurie's face in a fit of rage. I don't know. Like, that's the best you can hope for. If you're an NFL fan.
You know what? Lurie would go over to the Super Bowl trophies. He got one.
Yeah.
And say, it'll be okay. We can wipe that off. That's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm not rooting for the firings, but that's where we're clearly headed. Is you're going to start seeing those guys talked about in a similar vein, because everything's becoming more NFL-ish. Every aspect of it. Clearly you're not going to have a draft, but I was going to say I won't be surprised if, like, in 5 years, it's like, let's draft the top 100 recruits based on your, whatever.
Your whiteboard, as they call it, yeah.
We're not going to get there, obviously. Recruiting's never going to not be a shell of what it is now. But, yeah, I guess GMs are now a thing that we'll be paying more attention to, and I just wonder how notable or high profile it does get to where are we talking about these guys like we're talking about Howie Roseman or Jerry Jones or people like that. I'm fine with it to an extent, but it's kind of like the booster thing where I don't know how comfortable I am in entering like the discussion about those folks as much as just like the coaches and the players. You know what I mean? Like in the NFL, it makes sense because those guys are big decision makers, but how much are we now talking about those names compared to the head coach's name or compared to did Ryan Day make the decision or did fill in the blank GM make the decision on the quarterback? And then, so there's going to be those elements that we didn't really have before that are now going to be more present than ever before.
But they don't have enough money to pay the players. And that money is only going to continue to go up. By the way, Baylor Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes, expected to be here in studio with us on Wednesday, where we'll have a lot of discussion. And he was on the College Football Playoff Committee, too. The general managers, you heard of what, Balky got fired? We knew that. When general managers like Jerry today, they were talking about GMs, and he even brought it up. He doesn't even know the average of how long a general manager's tenure might be. Coaches is usually about 3.5 years.
You know what he could do? He could literally call anybody on the other end of his phone line in his office and have somebody go and figure that out for him to go see what the average length of it is. Anything he wants to know, he could have 1,000 people employed by him go look that up. And maybe he should.
To get it.
Maybe he should, so that when he sees that the average length is like 6 years and he's on year 32 or whatever it is now at this point, then maybe that would open his eyes. No, wait, no, it won't, because that's too much ego and narcissism and everything else that goes with that. But maybe that would be just another thing of like, yeah, you see, like you've been here 15 years longer than the average or whatever it might be. I would actually now want to know that myself, so get Spalding or whoever to go look that up for you.
I'm looking it up. That's the age. The average tenure head coach is 3 years. He brought that up. And he didn't say how long. Here's one, NFL general manager, looking it up. And that's the same thing with the head coaches as well. One simple rule for new GMs entering their jobs is 3-1. Probably expect 3 drafts or 1 change at quarterback for your tenure. You better have success.
Yeah. That's why you got to hit on those picks. Now, some of that's just you getting the new job because the guy before you sucked really bad. For Adam Peters, who was a big part of the 49ers building into Commanders, part of his thing was he walked into a situation where there's nowhere to go but up, and then Jaden Daniels is sitting right there. Like, All right, it's easy to do that. But what the key is with that is it's not just about Jaden Daniels. It's about all those other guys he drafted that all contributed this year. So
Sanders still.
Yeah.
Even though he had a bad day yesterday.
A year ago on Reddit, Tom Telesco is the 8th longest tenured GM. The 2 longest tenured GMs in the NFL as of a year ago, Jerry Jones and Mike Brown of the Bengals. What do? They own the team.
Lose?
They
own
own the team.
Oh, yeah.
Belichick was, and now he's out of course.
God, yeah, if you're a Cowboys fan, though, at least you're not the Bengals. I mean, at least you've got some level of trophies and accomplishments in your history. But, yeah, I know that doesn't soothe feelings much. But, yeah, you could be a much less impressive version of the Cowboys than Jerry Jones in Cincinnati, Ohio, with an empty trophy case, basically. Well, they made the Super Bowl, 2-3 years ago, and that was like the one blip on the radar so far.
Yeah, they lost to Montana on one of those last-second touchdown passes.
I'm talking about recent times.
Yeah, no, and then they lost that one with Burrow, yeah.
So it could be worse, see? You could be Mike Brown and the Bengals as opposed to Jerry and the Cowboys.
Paul, is John Schneider still running the Seahawks, general manager?
Did they change? I think he is, yeah.
Okay, then Roseman, Les Snead with the Rams. And then Tom Telesco with the Chargers. In that time, 11 years, he's had 2 playoff wins.
All right, I've got to get past all the John Schneider who was on Dukes of Hazzard in Smallville.
Oh, yeah, the blonde guy?
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, when we come back, what?
He is still the president and GM.
Couple of more notes on today in the Cowboys introducing Brian Schottenheimer, Bobby Stroop, personal trainer from way back when Patrick Mahomes was in high school and even before that. He'll join us today at 5. Please, if you haven't, click the like and subscribe button if you don't mind. And tonight at 10:30, Emery Winter will dial up 365 Sports tonight. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. Their next auction, live auction, is February the 6th, and that's on a Saturday, and that's the day before the Super Bowl. No, that's next Thursday. It's from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., TexasBeefHouse.com, in conjunction with BidOnBeef.com, putting up great product for you to go online during those times and bid what you want, price per pound. If there are 2 or 3 or 4 or a batch of good-looking Wagyu ribeyes, you can get in there and say, I'm going to bid this amount of money per pound. No different than when you go to the grocery store, except the grocery store is not going to change the price. You can go then find another lot of different Wagyu steaks that are available, or you can just sit in there and keep competing with whoever else is out there trying to buy the great product from TexasBeefHouse.com. It has a farm-raised Wagyu beef, Angus cattle, and it's from their pasture to your plate. If you get into the bidding war, you walk away. That's too much. Or you can go jump into another one like I mentioned. We've all done it here in the studio for the most part. Some of you have done it as well. The Duvall family and TexasBeefHouse.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
To
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
The old barn cat, go K-State. $19.99 super chat. Thank you, sir. But let's go Chiefs. CHEIFS. But we're taking your damn money.
Yeah.
We're taking your money. But I appreciate that, old barn cat. We really do, for you getting up in the super chat. Appreciate the fan funding of that. Kim Coulter. Barry Crawford, I'm in, $3.99. Kim Coulter, beat retired, and so Smoak won't yell at me. Thank you for your super chat, too. Retired stockbroker, super chat. So we had 4 of you today. Thank you very much for doing that. And the fan funding is what's called a super chat. We appreciate that. Kim was a little bit edgy when we were talking Big 12 men's basketball. Did you see his comment?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was a program left out of the conversation. I think Craig mentioned that Texas Tech had entered the top 25, but I could be wrong.
No, I absolutely did. I mentioned them entering the top 25 because I mentioned who was it that fell out. It was
West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia. So I mentioned it there. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you, all of you, the 4 super chats today. And Kim, you're right. You did send gift cards. I was just asking that question to Garrett and Emery and them. Gift cards that were sent to us, to those who really make everything happen behind the scenes from Kim Coulter. We do appreciate you for that support, too. All right. We've kind of discussed this on the championship games with Kansas City, with what they did, and also with what Philadelphia did. Has there ever been a better team in putting up numbers on the ground than what Philadelphia is doing right now?
No. I mean, well, you know, it's unbelievable. And I look at everything through the prism of frustrated fan, but the league as a whole forgot about all the running backs that the thing was built on. And it's funny where the groupthink goes in the NFL. It's like they get at the NFL meetings and somebody gets up and goes, hey, you know where we can save money? Running backs' average lifespan is this and this and this and this. And, you know, we shouldn't do that. And they're like, all right, well, we're not going to draft them in the early rounds, or we're not going to do this, or, you know, because of that. We're going to have a running back by committee. Well, you know, one of the Phillies' problems last year is they were doing that. And, you know, Kenneth Gainwell's a really good player, and he fits their system well, but he's not an every down back. Mm-hmm. So what did they do? And they, when the opportunity was presented to them to go not only hurt a rival, but continue to hurt, to use a weapon that the rival had squandered the first 5 years of his career, and they went and got Saquon Barkley, and they're back in the Super Bowl. And
God, he made that run immediately, and it was like, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, Jack and Andrew had come over yesterday to help me redo the upstairs, the original studio. It is.
Y'all were doing y'all's WNBA fantasy drafts. Just
I mean, it all goes like it all's part of it. Like, I'll take Aja Wilson, number 1 overall. What's up?
Y'all have to fight over Caitlin Clark.
No, I mean, like that was Andrew took the second. I took Aja Wilson for no, but no, they were helping me out with that project, and I went down to throw away some garbage right after the field goal. I walked out, dropped it in the can, came back upstairs, and Jack goes, "Saquon just scored." I was like, the commercial break started when I left. Like, how did that happen? It's how fast.
Yep. Philadelphia ran for 229 yards. The record, believe it or not, in most rushing yards in a playoff game was the 1987 Super Bowl year when Washington, Timmy Smith, former Texas Tech alum, Kim, you hear that? Went over 200 yards, I think it was, and was a Super Bowl hero. Doug Williams was the quarterback. They ran for 280. That was 45 years ago. 35 years ago. So still not the most, but it's interesting because Philadelphia they just put the hammer. And Jalen Hurts, is he, as an NFL quarterback, does he get enough credit for what he does? He's not throwing for 250, 400 yards. He's not doing that. It's a different team. You don't need to when you have that kind of run game. They had more rushing touchdowns in that game since the 73-0 Chicago Bears beating Washington in the championship game back in like 1942 or something. But where is he when it comes to, he's been to 2 Super Bowls now.
I'm trying to rank him in my head of where he goes.
I'm not talking about all time.
No, but
I'm talking about right now.
But right now, I mean, he's in the top 6 to me. I mean, like it's Mahomes and Allen and Jackson and Burrow and probably Hurts, and then somebody else. Like, I might be leaving somebody else out there, but dude just wins, and didn't play well at the end of last year, but so did all of the other 53 people on the Eagles roster. So it wasn't just on him. The coaching staff wasn't good. They revamped everything. So yeah, I'd put him at top 5 right now because he wins most of the games.
I don't feel like he's in the top 5. I'm not saying.
Like, respected. Like, who would you like? Again, I gave you the 4 that everybody would take over, which would be Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, and Burrow. Like, people would do that. And remember, Joe Burrow missed all of last year. So
I was gonna say, I don't know. I think some people might pause on Burrow, but yeah.
But I mean, Burrow's been to the Super Bowl, right? As well. So I don't know. I mean, like I think there's.
I think Burrow's definitely more popular. Like, if you're doing the popularity contest.
He was an MVP finalist this year. Yeah.
But
he's good. He's really good.
Like,
that's why I brought him up.
No,
Jared Goff's not as well regarded, and he's winning games. But all the rest of the guys, are either over the hill or they're in like the Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, Tua realm of like they're fine. Like you're not necessarily losing games because of those guys, but you're not necessarily winning a bunch because of them either. So,
yeah, I just feel like he's under the radar.
Oh, I think so. I mean, especially when
everyone knows him.
Especially when you compare him to the other guys that are in there, right? Like it's.
Well, his running back's taking all the attention.
Exactly.
That's the thing, and then his receivers taking all the attention. Dude, he gets a lot of attention. But like, give me the guy who's like, I'm only the 6th most popular quarterback in the league out of 32. Like, I'm sure that grinds his gears because that's how Jalen Hurts seems to be made, is like pissed off at the world about everything, like always a chip on his shoulder in a good way. But I think we're really splitting hairs. He's like, at worst, like the 6th quarterback versus the 5th. I mean, he's very, very good and very well respected, yeah.
He doesn't put up huge passing numbers, but he can if he needs to. But why would you want to throw the ball much? They could have won that game without throwing the ball one time. Although, was it 14-12 and he hit A.J. Brown on the deep fade down the sideline? He beat Lattimore, who was beaten up like a dish rag in that game. And that was like a moment for Washington, and then that moment was gone. And then I think you have the fumble kick return. Philadelphia is just beating people. Physically beating them up. And so good to watch, and now they play Kansas City. All right, when we come back, Bobby Stroup, he was training Patrick Mahomes back when he was probably, I don't know, we'll ask him, I think at least junior high. And now Mahomes going 7 consecutive AFC championship games and yet another Super Bowl appearance as the Chiefs try to win 3 in a row. What about Patrick Mahomes when it comes to when he needs to run? He's a lot faster than you think. That and more. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. And as I've mentioned to you, they have those Wagoneer series specials going on now, the Jeep Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer. 3.9% financing for 72 months. The Jeep Compass, if you're looking something a little bit less pricey, $25,995 with a lot of value, bundled up in a little car. I've driven that as a loaner car for a while, and it was great. Drove it into Dallas for a weekend, drove it a couple of places, and it was really, really nice. Active lane management system, full speed, forward collision warning, blind spot, and cross path detection. Uconnect 5 radio system, 8.4 touch screen. Also, the Grand Laredo, the Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, 2025 model, the most decorated SUV in history, starting at $35,925 plus tax, title, and license, loaded with accessories like adaptive cruise control, full speed, forward collision warning, park view backup camera, and a lot more, and a 5-star safety rating. And the 2025 Motor Trend Truck of the Year for the 7th time. Talking about Mahomes, 7 AFC championship games, 7-time Motor Trend Truck of the Year, the Ram 1500. 7 different times they've won that prestigious award. Come by, drive it today, test drive it today. You'll fall in love with that. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Get ready, Baylor fans. The ultimate game weekend experience awaits you at the Baylor Club. Kick off your weekend with our Friday Night Live pep rally. With live entertainment and special appearances from the Baylor Spirit Squad, it's the perfect way to start your game weekend with a roar. On Saturdays, don't miss our Knox Hall tailgate. Enjoy delicious food, ice-cold drinks, and great company as you gear up for the big game. And after the weekend's excitement, wrap it all up with our famous Bear brunches on Sundays. Don't wait. Make your game weekends legendary with a Baylor Club membership today.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
We have had Bobby Stroop on this show a couple of different times. Started out in a, it wasn't an abandoned, but an old metal building where he started to train high school, middle school type athletes, prospects, try to get them to be faster, try to get them to be stronger, more versatile. And he, of course, back in the day, when a young kid named Patrick Mahomes was also trying to grow into what he is today, Bobby was a part of that, what was called APEC. He's a health, performance, and player development consultant for the NFL, Major League Baseball, and he is someone that is training Patrick Mahomes on a everyday basis. In fact, we'll wait to see. He's not quite ready yet. I'll text him. I just got a text from him that he would be ready. He has done an amazing job with training. I remember there was a guy named Tim Powers who worked at the local, one of the hospitals, Trinity Mother Frances Health System, who started strength, agility, and quickness camps, which now is all over the state of Texas and all over the country. Bobby took that as well and turned it into a monstrous business, and he joins us now on 365 Sports. Bobby, thank you very much. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, Smokey with you. We were talking about Patrick yesterday. He's not known as at times being someone who's a dual threat quarterback. He was in high school, he was in college, and he can be. But yesterday, was it me or us? It looked like they were using him more in the run game and almost sent a message pretty early.
Yeah, I think there was opportunity there, and I think that most people, including the Bills, weren't suspecting that. And what we did talk about throughout the week was how they've played us in the past. And one of the things that I do as part of my job with them is we look at the defensive personnel, not from a football coaching standpoint, but from a physical matchup standpoint. Knowing the physical capabilities of the players in the defensive unit and who they might pair with him, like Milano as a spy, the ways he can move well, the ways he can't. What we did know is that one of the safeties was out. We thought Hamlin would replace him. And our feeling was that Hamlin is a good pass defender, but he's not a good physical match for Patrick. Patrick's metrics, as far as in the weight room, the power he can produce, the speed he has, the ability to break tackles, move in space, we felt like Hamlin wasn't a good match for him. And if you notice, once he felt like he was matched up with Hamlin, he really ran right at him both times.
Bobby, what I mean, I know you're probably not going to tell me, but like his measurables, I think it's kind of weird. We just talked about, like, if you think about it, if you're the other coach, you're probably not thinking about him running all that much because you're worried about covering everybody because it doesn't take much time for him to find somebody that's open. But if I look back at almost every single one of these Bills games that has happened, there have been one or two runs that have just happened because they've been so locked in on covering people that they've given him 12 yards of space and forgotten that he's not Dan Marino back there. He can run 12 or 15 yards if you're going to give it to him.
Yeah, there's been 3 playoff runs where Patrick's healthy. And in those 3 playoff runs, including this one, he's the highest average per rush in the history of the NFL in the playoffs, if you take out the knees. And he's the second leading rusher of all time as a quarterback in the playoffs behind Steve Young. He does this when he's healthy. That year against the Bills when they had 13 seconds, that whole thing, he had 80 yards rushing. He had 80 yards rushing. So when the way the Bills play you, they're gonna allow you to have a one-on-one matchup if you're the quarterback, and it's your job to beat them. And those are good athletes, but again, I think people underestimate this guy has great speed. He's faster than he used to be in college. He is one of the stronger athletes on the field, period. And he does have some running back vision and ability, and we saw that in high school.
How much, you're there every day, Bobby Stroop with us on 365 Sports, how much has all this chatter about Kansas City and the benefits and all the stuff that people think they're getting, how much do they get fueled by that?
A lot. I mean, you take these people in sport, you take the Kobe's, the Jordans, the Nolan Ryans, who are Tom Brady, you give them anything, and it's just like, it's agitating someone that is already looking for even making up reasons. These type of people, it doesn't take much. And I just think it's so foolish. And I will even ag it on and post things. And I'll post bulletin board stuff. And somebody messaged me the other day and they said, well, that's a fake quote. And I said, well, I don't care. My job is to piss them off. I don't care if this is real or not. So that it is part of it. Is that these guys, and you'll hear people say, well, if you can't be motivated on your own, sure. But these guys that are at the top, they're going to internalize it. And when you're going to see it is when they make a big play or score a touchdown. That's when you're going to see that anger. And that's part of the game. You want everybody to be that way.
Are you going to go and work with him on his spike game? Because that was not befitting the best player in the game, Bobby. It's tough to watch.
Yeah, that was tough to watch for all of us. I think on Twitter I was pretty clear. I was like, the TD, the touchdown run was diesel. The spike was unacceptable. We're just not gonna act like it wasn't. I think he just was so. I think it just caught him off guard, and he was obviously emotional, and it's just awesome to see it, man. you just never know how you're going to get the opportunity to win. And to see a guy just go out there and play it however they give them, like, whatever they do, we're going to do something. We're going to do this or that. Is just, it's really awesome to see a guy go do it any way it takes. I mean, they're winning it any way the other team gives them the opportunity. It's awesome. Awesome to watch.
Bobby, for those that don't know, I mentioned what you did when you came up with the idea, training young high school, middle school, junior high, whatever, even those who came back who were pros at your business, APEC, and what you do now with the NFL, the Chiefs, et cetera. When was the first time you were introduced to Patrick? Was it through Pat, his brother? Was it through the fact you'd heard about what this young man was doing at White House High School? What kind of give us that story for those that don't know?
Yeah, so he was 9 years old. I was running the speed camps, doing all the stuff at the public parks and getting started. And heck, I called you and was like, I got to get the word out.
Yep.
And
yep.
No one could figure out what I was trying to do, and it was hard for me to explain it, to be honest. And Pat Senior was working with us, and he was trying to make a little comeback attempt. And I had some of those the pro baseball guys, and he was in the group, and he just looked at me one day. He's like, "Hey, I think I could get Patrick. I think I could get my boys up here. This is pretty good stuff." And I said, "That'd be awesome." And so I think that's how it happened. Is he just put him in the speed camps, and they're called speed camps, but it was really movement. And I just noticed. I mean, man, this kid he does some things really well, but anything we measure, it's just he's not really great at it. But if we play any kind of game, there's any kind of reaction drill or something, he's got something. And that crew he ran around with, Patrick didn't have to do any talking with Jake Parker and those guys around.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was his personality was kind of reserved and fun, and you just saw him grow and develop. It was really cool to see that. And then obviously as the years went on, we worked more and more together, and he became what he is. And obviously he's genetically blessed, but also wouldn't give it to him, and he wasn't just an obvious standout as a quarterback at all. I mean, he had to work and develop, and it ends up being the perfect thing for him because he gets to be creative and be an individual in this day and age and at the position. And it fits him better than baseball and anything else. And who would have thought it? I mean, he thought it, but I don't think anybody else would have picked that.
What is the challenge for you on a year-to-year basis of adapting to off-season changes? There's so much now science out there. I mean, Derrick Henry's a great example of, the way that he fuels himself and the way that he trains, all that of, having to adapt to the current situation of an athlete with you with Patrick, and doing the same things that work, but also changing it up so it is different and you can adapt.
I think you just have to be open. I mean, every year that things are going to come and change. It's the schedules. We had three games in 10 days this year. It's always something, and just being open-minded. In the way the game changes, the systems, the coaches are not going to stay the same. The players, you just have to. It's part of the job, and so you just try to take the motion out of it and say, all right, we're not going to spend any energy on why. We're just going to figure it out. And that 3 games in 10 days stretch, we talked about that in August, and we got a plan for it in August. And we both acknowledge there's a great chance you're going to be beat up going into that. Here's what we're going to do no matter what. And we also talked about the goal was to clinch the 1 seed by Christmas so we can rest. And that's what happened. And you don't always know if it's going to happen, but you have these contingencies and these plans. And every year when you look at things, you try to look at best case and worst case scenario and just be ready. Take the motion out of it and do the work. And you just, you live with the result. But that's the game these days.
I've seen videos, your training videos with him, recently over the summer, spring, whatever, even back a few years ago. When we see Patrick Mahomes make an underarm, almost like a relief pitcher, sidearm, or some kind of a not normal throw, I've seen videos where you guys are actually practicing that, like the muscle memory. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. He's got some ability, right? All I want to do at times in the workouts is just nurture the traits that he's got that are natural to him. Let's develop the things God gave him. It's his signature uniqueness with the way he likes to see things. I mean, he looks at this position like a point guard, a shortstop, it's different. It's different. He's a distributor. He's not really just a thrower. I mean, it's obvious. That's why guys like Traeger, I just don't think they get it. Like, it doesn't all have to look the same. You have a job to do the job. Jalen does it. Like, a lot of guys do it. But I think with the arm angles, for me, more of it is getting him in different movement patterns and trying to get him to get rid of the ball quickly and let him solve a problem. Because one of the best attributes Patrick has is he solves problems really well, and it's authentic, and it's just in the way that he sees it. And so if I can put him in environments where he's got to do that, then what we get is these arm angles. I'm not asking for him. He's not trying to do it. He's just solving problems quickly, and then it makes him comfortable in doing those things and obviously slows it down in the game. So I'd love to tell you that there was more of a process to it, but that's really all it is.
Well, his instincts are insane. His instincts and football IQ, like pumping the ball when he's scrambling, he's past the line of scrimmage, but a defensive player's natural reaction is to stop, to try to block the pass, and then he just runs another 7 or 8 yards.
It's unbelievable. I mean, he's playing a game the way you're supposed to play it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. I think yesterday, God, we're all going to look back. I mean, we're all really blessed to be able to watch Josh and Patrick play each other. I mean, my gosh, this is there hasn't been a time like this in the NFL since Steve Young and Troy Aikman were playing, and you had Elway and we had so many good quarterbacks. We got that again. And I hope people are understanding what they're seeing. It's just we're having a blast, man. I mean, I hope we can pull this off, but it's been a fun ride, and we're going to give it our best, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Do you still do baseball, kind of themed workouts because of his development with baseball, because he was a multi-sport athlete is been kind of what maybe makes him unique in this era of over-specialization, I guess?
I think there's baseball influence. I think more you look at throwing, striking, ballistic movement, and you just look at common denominators of what is it that people need from a chain reaction that transfer force down the chain from the top down and then from the bottom up. And you look at the commonalities and you just pick those out. With baseball, it is different. I mean, pitching and quarterback is not the same. You don't get to decide what your platform is as a quarterback. I mean, the defensive line does usually. As a pitcher, the mound is the mound. You dictate the timing, the rhythm, the technique, and you get to repeat it. So you can train it different. Quarterbacks aren't throwers. They're not. They do throw, but there's a whole lot more to it. And so I think that picking some of those things out in this age of specialization is important. But nothing's better for development of athletes and cross training, playing different sports, competing with different skill sets, letting the brain develop a map system for the body where it can just do a lot of different things. And then that way, no matter what sport you pick, you've got this unique approach to it due to your experiences. And I think that's the best way to go about it.
How much and you have been training athletes more than just Patrick Mahomes, but that's like right now the ultimate dude. You have a lot of others you train. How much watching Patrick and what he can do has brought people or contacted you, whether agents or players that said, I want to be a part of this too?
It's a double-edged sword. I'm blessed. I'm lucky. But when you have a client like this, most people are going to assume there is no time or opportunity, that this is it. And so there's 2 parts to it. And I wouldn't have thought that. Listen, this is not a complaint. When I got into this with Patrick and we took this next step together, as far as kind of being all in together, like a partnership, I talked to Tom House, who was Nolan Ryan and Tom Brady's guy. I talked to Tim Grover, who was Jordan's guy, and then Kobe's guy. And they both told me some things that were kind of shocking, and they ended up being true. And that one, it's the greatest job ever. It's the greatest opportunity. 2, you're going to be hated. You're going to be called a joke. You're going to be called a coat rider. And then also the next thing is people are going to assume you don't have time for anything else, and you're not going to get some of these opportunities. But then also, on the other side of the coin, you're going to get more opportunities than you ever, like the highest level of opportunities that you could have never earned for yourself, which is also true. And so while it is different, and yes, I do get to be in rooms or get in conversations I never would have had.
Mm-hmm.
There's another side of that. You know, you don't have the kids you don't get those young relationships that you learn so much from that were the reason you get into this sport. So it's different, but there's no place I'd rather be. It's probably not what people think, but
right.
But then you also, you know, like a kid had a high ankle this year, Josh Downs for the Colts. Well, the Colts reach out. Josh Downs reached out. It's like, hey, I heard you're a guy that knows what to do here. And then I'll be a consultant in that situation, work with the team, the person, liaison. I've designed the workouts. It's all virtual. So those are opportunities I would not have had. And I get a lot of those. And so that's the majority of my work these days.
How much, and I would think unbelievably so, is Patrick Mahomes a listener? Here's the best quarterback on the planet. And there's 2 or 3 guys in the conversation, but none have the kind of trophies and all that he has. What kind of listener is he? How much do you guys pick each other's brain?
It's a lot. He listens. He asks questions, and the day after the game, it's a lot of talk. You know, our first day of the week, he's usually unloading on me things he thinks and what's this and that and the other with his body. And well, did you see this? What did you think of that? I thought this, and this was different than what I said in the media and whatever. There's a lot of communication, and he's a great listener. I mean, he's wise enough to have a chaplain that meets with him once a week privately. I mean, he's wise enough to have people in his life that he asks questions to. He's got Coach Reed, but then, you know, we talk about meaningful things that have to do with him doing whatever. And it's not that he wants to do what anyone says. It's just that he's wise enough to want perspective. He's a person that reads. We're always on a book. I mean, he's chasing improvement, and people that chase improvement, I feel like they want to listen. They want resources. And he falls right there with that. I don't think that's ever going to change with him.
Yeah, it's amazing, the relationship. When was the first time you realized he was special?
Oh, that's tough. It's really tough. You know, for me personally, when I saw him finally get to play, he had confidence from basketball and baseball in high school, and so it changed him. And then when he got to play quarterback his junior year, when they actually let him, you know, go that John Tyler game. I think they lost. I don't remember exactly the result of that game, but I remember it was probably in the first quarter. Tyus Bowser and a couple of those guys got to him, and he scrambled for about, I want to say 6 seconds, and then he bombed it. And a bunch of people in the stands are like, "That's a fluke. He's got to quit doing that." And I looked down at my phone. I text Cliff Kingsbury. I was like, "Hey, this is crazy." And people thought it was not good, but I could see it right then. This kid's got some special ability, and once he learns how to play this position, this is going to be fun.
Yep. Yeah, Craig, did you do one of those games, the JT Whitehouse game? You remember that one?
Say that again?
JT and Whitehouse when Patrick was the quarterback. Was that at Rose Stadium, Bobby?
That was at Rose Stadium, and it might have been the first time they played. And it was, I mean, that was insane. I think JT won, but, I mean, Patrick, he was unbelievable that night.
I think Greg Ward was on the other side of that, and obviously went on to have a great career. And, yeah, I think JT won that game at Rose, but that was one of the best games I've ever seen, for sure.
Yeah, and I just remember some dads in the stands because they lost, and they were like, "Oh, he just quit running around and throwing it up." And I wanted to grab him, and I wanted to grab those guys by the collar and be like, "You don't even know what you're watching, buddy." But I just kept it to myself. And I don't think people knew what they were seeing. And quite honestly, I think the White House coaches wanted the other kid to play because they thought the same thing, and they kind of kept trying to play him a little bit. But you know, kid's a good kid. I'm just saying this is a hard position to evaluate. And Patrick, even in high school, was playing it like we kind of never really seen, and you just didn't know if it was going to work. And it sure did. That's for sure.
Bobby, thank you, man. Congratulations on the run. I know you're enjoying life, and I'll tell Patrick we said hi, and we'll be down in New Orleans at Radio Row covering the game. Look forward to seeing him when he's inducted to the High School Football Hall of Fame in May. Thanks for your time, and keep him healthy. A great game coming up with another a physical freak and someone like Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be a good match. We respect him. I appreciate y'all having me on. Thanks for all you do, and I will certainly tell Patrick y'all said hello.
Yes, sir. Bobby Stroop, founder of APEC, and now Patrick Mahomes' personal trainer. You get the feeling of what he was 9 years old when his father, Pat, said, hey, let me bring the kids out here, and, of course, the rest is history. All right, when we come back, another note or two about that Brian Schottenheimer hiring introduced today by the Cowboys, a comment that maybe we have not yet used, and a couple of other nuggets. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey inside the Central Texas Marketplace. They have a state-of-the-art imaging machine. MRI, your doctor discusses that with you. Your shoulder, muscle, your lower back, maybe something's going on in the lower part of your spine, your knee. If your orthopedic surgeon or doctor said, hey, we need to get a better look at that, and they also say we need to get an MRI, they know about Ideal MRI. $1,100 is approximately the average of an MRI. Theirs has never gone up, and it's always been $497 or less. That right there can help affect your pocketbook, your budget, and especially if you have bumps and bruises on your body the way I have had the last few years. Luckily now for me, there's Medicare, and that even makes it even better for me. But if you have a rotator cuff that's not acting right, a detached bicep, a knee, an ACL, hope not, something that bothers you where it can shut you down, Ideal MRI can get the MRI, $1,100 the average. Theirs is $497 or less. Dr. Rob Maxey and Company in the Central Texas Marketplace at IdealMRI.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at IdealMRI.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
When you work with a bank, you should expect the best of everything. That includes face-to-face personal service and the kind of community banking care that only comes from one neighbor to another. That's exactly what you'll get from the First National Bank of Central Texas, where you will know your banker works just as hard as you do. Once again, that's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Settle for nothing less than the first. Member FDIC.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Bud Light. Enjoy the smooth, crisp taste of Bud Light beer. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Appreciate those of you who are watching us, listening to us, or both. YouTube, 365 Sports, and also on Twitter at 365 Sports YT, and also Sikkim 365 app. We appreciate you doing that. We've got a lot of guests lined up, not as many today, to discuss a lot of what's going on in the NFL and a couple of other stories, including the Cowboys introducing Brian Schottenheimer. And in fact, here's one of the questions for the Jones family. And Schottenheimer, they're all up front after he's introduced. Tim Calishaw covered the Cowboys, still does. He wrote for the Dallas Morning News forever. He's been on ESPN. What was the name that? Around the Horn that he was a part of? Mm-hmm. And then Jane Slater from the NFL Network, who covers Dallas and also the rest of the NFL.
Alice Shaw, Dallas Morning News, back here in row 3. Appreciate the shout out earlier. Having said that, since your last NFC Championship game, this is the 7th coaching hire you've made. That's a unique situation among GMs. Others do not get that luxury. How would you tell the fans again how this unique system is working?
Well, it makes it unique because I've been with the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have had 7 coaching hires, and it happens I've been here for those 7 coaching hires. I'm not so sure, average time a head coach coaches in the NFL is about 3.4, 3.5 years that they coach in NFL average time. I'm not for sure what it is with the general managers. It could be less or more than that, but it's a big turnover, especially the last 10 or 15 years with you there, okay? And if I could ever think the story I just told Tim, I got up and I went to work and I lived on that hope and that promise, and I had a lot of gas. And my point of telling the ping pong ball and bat story was I live in those dreams, and I live real good there. But I'm practical enough to know you can't eat those dreams. So you got to go put some hard action to it. Life is real. But boy, those dreams are real there too. I'm dreaming of the Cowboys playing in a game like the one I saw last night when the Eagles were sitting up there with those Chiefs. I'm dreaming of it. I will always dream of it. I've never quit dreaming about it. I want that.
I don't know what that was.
I think the average general manager's length is also around 3.4 based on just looking at that up on the line.
Yeah. Well, you most get to make, if you get to make 3 coaching hires, it's because one of them retired.
Well, I read the quote from an NFL that you get a chance to have 3 drafts.
Yeah. But if you have 3 coaching hires, it means that you had probably one unsuccessful coach, one retired coach, and then another one after the retired coach, right? So if you get to 3, well, he's made 7 different coaching hires, and 2 of those have worked out, and one of them worked out, not to knock Barry Switzer, but one of them worked out so well because the other one worked out excellently with Jimmy Johnson. So I don't think Barry gets enough credit for keeping it together for those couple of years.
Never will get enough credit.
No, I mean,
even I get it's a hot topic.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't build it, but he kept it together. And then, I mean, it was a herding cats for a while, and he did that. So that was impressive. But since Barry lost control, however that happened, whatever fault you want to put on whoever is involved, it's been a cavalcade of blah. I mean, except for Bill Parcells is the only coach he's hired that's like, oh, okay. Even Mike McCarthy, while that was a bit of a departure, it's still what's new about Mike McCarthy? There's nothing here. So why do you, if you were the general manager of another team doing this, you wouldn't get to make all these hires, but he doesn't see it that way.
Well, we mentioned Mike Brown of the Bengals. He's the owner of Cincinnati. He's been around forever. And we mentioned the Bengals and what they've done with Burrow the 1 year, which was an incredible year. And then, of course, the 80 or 81 season was when they lost to San Francisco and Joe Montana. So that's the question from Tim Cowlishaw. And I thought it was a great question, that you've been a part of all these. You're the one that's making these decisions. And how do you tell the fans that this is going to work when the other, some have for a little bit? McCarthy had 12 wins, 3 consecutive years. But the Cowboys are not a franchise based on 12-win seasons. They're a franchise based on postseason success. And they've had just a little bit of that, but not much, anything deep since 1995. Jane Slater had a question for Jerry Jones.
Slater, NFL Network. Jerry, to a lot of us on the outside, it did look like this process took a bit. What was the reason for that? Did you ever Was there a point during your conversations with Mike that you thought that he would stay? Was there something that came up in those conversations that you needed to change? And what did he say, or some of the coaches that you reached out to, give you confidence that this was the guy that you needed, particularly given some of the criticism about some of the decisions and the coaching in recent years?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I wasn't aware of any clock. Where's the clock? There are a hell of a lot more important things than a clock. Take a long time to do this. How about the timing to do that? If I'd have screwed around with clocks in my life, I wouldn't get to be sitting up here. And by the way, you say, well, if you'd watched the clock, you wouldn't be sitting up here explaining why you hadn't been to a playoff game in all those years, too. I understand. I get it. One of the fun things about this deal is you get to start a new clock every time you line up for the year. And so I really can block out, not block out the practical things, because I don't care if it is the new year. If they're about to take your house away, that'll go from last year into this year. So there's reality that goes with it. So at least I'm sitting here because I know how to deal with reality. Okay? And so to answer that question is simply, it never occurred to me there was a clock at all. When I was trying to buy the Cowboys, I think I did read someplace, Tim, you might have remembered or what have you. I read someplace where that process and all that was going on was maybe creating some time problems relative to the clock of the NFL or the clock of that. I've really not had the experience of that being the determining factor. I heard this year that we didn't get Dak signed quick enough. Dak, you're sitting right back there. You want to stand up and tell him you had something to do with that?
No, thank you.
Didn't get Lamb signed quick enough. Okay. There's so damn many more things to think about than that clock. It's unbelievable. So I hear it, and I understand the point. But I think it is fair to say that clock doesn't affect me that much.
No, I think that's the most honest answer he gave all day. Doesn't affect him, So I get that you've been successful doing it your way in the past. But the people who are most successful are who don't have a way. Their way is what is successful. And that's where the Cowboys are stuck.
How long was the press conference?
Too long.
50 minutes?
Yeah.
An hour.
Yeah, an hour.
It was an hour long.
Mm.
Well, that's kind of what they do, and maybe an hour when the next coach of wherever New Orleans is hired. I don't know, but I don't have any problem with Brian Schottenheimer. I wish him the very best of luck. He just happened to be the one that's next, and he obviously did a good job of getting Stephen or Jerry or both attention to be the next head coach of the greatest college, the greatest, most powerful NFL franchise, despite the fact the success has not been there. Has not been there.
I thought you were going to say something.
I did too.
Yeah. No, it's not. Like they're spinning their wheels, and like he has these moments where it feels like he's realizing that they're spinning their wheels, and then he quickly it's like the whatever in his head is correct. Like no, you're not spinning your wheels. But when you have Steven, saying so-called drought and air quoting it. And they don't know how long 95 was ago. It's not in their mind. And part of that is because no matter what they do, they just you open the doors to AT&T Stadium and just dollar bills fall into their wallet. It's all that is. So it's hard for them to say the business side of it and the sports side of it have collided in the fact that it doesn't matter how mediocre their product is. They're making money hand over fist. So it can't be all bad. And there's not enough of a boycott that could go on because there's so many damn Cowboy fans that if you decide you're not going to go, well, guess what? Somebody's going to buy your tickets. sports fandom is not that organized. So there's nothing that can happen because of the machine that the Cowboys are to make people not go. I mean, they're synonymous with the NFL. They're like good or bad, like because they're a love them or hate them franchise, even though they've become very boring in the last few years. They're still there. They still move the needle no matter what. This was Fox's lowest year for ratings in years. Why? Because the Cowboys had a lot of noon kicks. Tom Brady and Tom and Kevin weren't on most of those games. They used to be Fox's home, that was their home broadcast team essentially. Madden and Summerall, I mean, of the 16-week season, they probably did 9-10 of the games. Right?
Yeah, it was always the game. Well, they were always knocking on some sort of a playoff spot or an NFC East championship. But I did notice that they weren't on as many. I don't know exactly how many of the 17 games they were on, but they did start the 12 o'clock starts or whoever the broadcast. Because Kevin Burkhardt, right, and Brady are the number one team.
The number one team. Yeah. So you're not getting. So they got the lowest ratings they've had in years, and that's due in large part to the fact that the Cowboys were terrible, and that the fact is that also if Cowboys fans decide in mass to stop watching, there's still the people who are hate watching. Like you can't. It's just one of those things that everywhere you turn, there's no consequence for the Jones family.
If you are a Cowboys hater and they're not playing well, there's that Muhammad Ali, Boston Celtics, New York Yankees. I'll watch them because I want to see them lose. And those people are getting along really well right now. They're enjoying the hell out of this. All right.
There's 32-year-olds that have never seen them win a Super Bowl. What are we talking about? Like the 90s was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
30-plus-year-olds. 30-plus-year-olds that have never seen them even be in the Super Bowl. So, this is, I guess is it 30? Yeah, it's 20, where we've been 25, 20, so about 30, 31 years.
29 official years.
But we're at the age, though, we act like the 90s is like 10 years ago. And the people that cover them think the 90s was like 10 years ago. And Jerry clearly doesn't realize that he's going to die soon, like in the near future, as opposed to, like, he's much closer to the end than he is to the beginning. And so when I hear him become a smartass about the clock ticking, that's father time, dude. That's what's ticking. Yeah. Look at yourself. Like, you don't have another decade to run this team to a Super Bowl. The clock that people hear is father time. That's the clock they're referring to with Jerry Jones because he's old. And he's been the owner and general manager for decades now. And at some point, that is coming to a close unless he has a miracle drug up his sleeve. So that's the clock that people are thinking of when they talk about the Cowboys. How many more years does Jerry have before he is put in the home? I mean, honest to God, that's what the clock is.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't get it. Well, he's not supposed to. But that's what everybody's referring to. And that clock's been ticking for 30 years now. So, I mean, if that doesn't get through Steven's head or through, maybe they got to play stupid or whatever. But, maybe it's just been so long that they don't even understand how long that's been. I don't know, because I just hear a bunch of, just delusion is what I hear with some of that. It's just delusion, like the fans are stupid and don't know what they're talking about, and the media is stupid and they don't know what they're talking about. And I think the Cowboys media is sometimes as much as fault for feeding this because they get their little Jerry quote that's real asinine, and then they go wrong with it. Can y'all believe he just said that? Clarence Hill says that, and it's the same thing every year. Can you believe what Jerry said? Yeah, we can, because he's been saying dumb stuff for 30 years.
Yeah, you heard Newey. It's the new, it's the new meat there that's oh, wow. No. He had another glory hole quote today.
Dude, he said glory hole 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's
what was that about? What did he bring that up?
He was, it was in the walk-off. He said, I know it's not all candy canes and glory holes. And I'm starting to think that, Jerry's into something.
He looked up his Pornhub search or something, and it'd probably say glory hole somewhere on there. Probably, probably.
So, I bet you he can get it.
Well, I guess he wouldn't get it in Texas.
I bet you he can.
His X videos or his
I bet you he can.
foo whatever.
But it's again, it's the same. And I do think that there is a larger segment of media and fans than there has ever been going, Like, all right, like we get, like, it was fun. Like, once after the Wade fell, like 2007, after 2007, it's been the same crap every year. So 2007 was the last year that there was like legitimate hope. And then everything else is you just kind of see it's kind of smoke and mirrors. And we're excited about this, we're excited about that. But they've never had a plus coach since Jimmy and Barry. And I guess Bill Parcells. But again, Parcells is a hit and run lover, man. Like, he doesn't stay anywhere too long, you know. Like that was they needed that they needed to learn about the modern NFL, and Parcells helped them with that. But he was never gonna, like, even if he and Jerry were the best of friends, Parcells doesn't stay anywhere long. Mm-hmm.
Scotty B, I was so young back then, I don't remember it. I was born in 1993, bracket cat. Well, he's talking about glory holes. Barry Crawford, I was in Fort Drum in 95. I remember it. I wish I had $1 billion to be delusional. Well, he does. He has several billion. Jerry will answer to his superior before the Cowboys win, much less get a Super Bowl. Delusional. He'll die knowing he was right. I was 12 from Bracket Cat. Barely remember 1995.
I was 15. It was glorious. You know, I was like the only Cowboys fan in my school. So like those 4 years, like there were a bunch of 49ers fans, you know, but there were like no Cowboys fans, none. Maybe like one or two of us, but like I was like the only one. So when the Cowboys were winning, it was just like, it felt like a birthday party after the Super Bowl every year, because you're going to school and everybody's like, hey, all right, the only Cowboys fan, da 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 da. You know what it's like? It's you know, there's nothing. Like, you know, I had those feelings and it's great, but it's been a long time. It's been a long time. I mean, I think about, like, if you just sat down and looked at what cell phones have gone through since 1995.
Buddy, we didn't even have cell phones, basically.
I mean, yeah, exactly. They came in a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not everybody had one.
Yeah. My dad had one in his car that he used to, like, wrestle with, you know, until somebody taught him how to use the speakerphone feature. And then it was the greatest thing ever. But, yeah, there were no, like, it was crazy. Like, it's just crazy. And they just don't see it. They don't see it the way that everyone else does, because they don't have to have perspective. They're making the money. They don't have to. And there's nothing that's changed that made their client, you know, their clientele go away at all. Not at all. So, you know, nobody's made them change. Nobody can make them change. So nothing's going to change. And for everybody thinking that things are going to be different when Jerry moves on to the next event and meets his maker, I think you saw today, like, there was a lot of talk about apples and trees. I mean, what's the difference?
I don't know my voice. No, it's not. Barry, read Barry Crawford.
Okay, I will. My gosh. Where is...
I got something stuck in my throat. AudioVox.
I'm trying to find where Barry Crawford said. I'm scrolling.
I had an AudioVox bag phone, had a lead acid battery.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, in the bag like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
you know that a guy that loves nothing but attention is struggling when they announced that Schottenheimer's the coach on a late Friday night.
Yeah, it was a news dump. It was a news dump. The Bears couldn't wait to say they hired Ben Johnson. The Jaguars had to, like, sequester Liam Cohen away from the Bucks. You know, the Jets thrilled about Aaron Glenn. Also, how does it show that the Cowboys announced their head coach today, and used to Jerry could do that and people would back off of it because they knew they wouldn't get coverage? Everybody else introduced theirs today too. Liam Cohen had his press conference, and so did Aaron Glenn. So, you know, they're not the big bad wolf anymore, no matter what he wants to say.
The one who wants the attention, loves the attention, craves the attention, the value of his franchise. They released the head coach on a Friday night. A Friday night. That's when bad things happen. You're right. You release that information, a statement, a press release, or something that has gone wrong.
Yes. You, this is one of the first things I learned when I got into media, because quite often when there was bad news with Baylor, they would release it at about 6:20, because we'd have been out, like, we're away from the studio, and can't do anything about it. The Rangers game or whatever that we're running has started, and then the local TV people can't get it on the news because 6:20 is when the sports block starts. So they can't get it on the news. So then it has to wait until 10 o'clock if they even can get it on by then to have anything good, and then we don't get to the next day. So the Cowboys work a little differently, but 9 o'clock on a Friday night is absolutely insane.
Yeah, for them. Now, there was a time when they could release that. It would still cover everybody. Everyone would go nuts, but not the case anymore. Kim Coulter in the chat put up how many emojis of the dragon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Damn it, boy, when Craig went off about the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's true, though. Every word of it's true.
I mean, I'd like, let's just call it what it is. I mean, he's talking about time and this and that. It's been 30 years since you won a Super Bowl, and you're talking about time like people are stupid for bringing that concept up when you're 80-something years old.
Yeah.
No, they're just being logical that, dude, you have like 5 to 10 years at the maximum that you could possibly get this thing done, and there's no reason to – I mean, what, Dak's going to be 32 next year?
Yeah.
He's already approaching his mid-30s. And – nothing's really changed significantly or not. So I don't know, man. I'm not somebody that lives to bash on the Cowboys. I'm not somebody that even like gets all giddy when Jerry does something stupid because it's content and all that. I've watched it for so long that I'm less entertained by it now, and I just feel kind of bad for Cowboys fans, to be perfectly honest with you. I just see this. It's like watching this great building just go to waste. And like the windows get broken out and they don't repair the window. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just watch it decay basically, and that's what I feel like we're just watching this decay. Even though they've had success here and there, I mean, just in terms of the Super Bowl and things like that, and I wouldn't have a reaction if he just didn't say stupid stuff like, why are people talking about time and things? Well, because you're 80 whatever years old, dude. That's why people are talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous, and time isn't on their side. It's not, and he like none of that. Like seeing Romo go, like and part of it is I do think though that like their successes in like finding Romo, like getting Romo, which Bill Parcells did and Sean Payton did, like that hitting for them makes them think like, oh, we're just right there. Anytime there's injury, like this year, old Dak was hurt. Well, that's why. But they set McCarthy up to fail in the offseason. That's what they did. When we come back, the Dude Awards continue. On my top 5, this is 365 Sports.
For a wheeled cooler, this is the Arctic 52-quart ultralight wheeled cooler. I hauled it on a deck, I hauled it downstairs, upstairs, grass, gravel, sandy road, mud puddles, the whole bit. And I gotta say, it is pretty darn tough. I really do like the wheels and the tow handle. It's easy to hold on to, even when full. It made it 6 full days with ice present, still keeping cool enough temperatures to keep drinks cold. This is a great cooler, and if you're looking for a new wheeled cooler that tows really nicely, this is a great option.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
There are hundreds of things that can affect our sleep, but what's affecting yours? Sleep Doctor's Home Sleep Test brings the precision of a sleep lab into the comfort of home to help you get answers and unlock a lifetime of great sleep. Start now at sleepdoctor.com/TV.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into the Monday edition of Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. The That Dude Awards. We're continuing on that dude. This is the, there's kind of, this is like the Razzies to the Oscars where, they have the ones who are like, maybe this is not the best award or this is the best of the worst award. So this one, and it's Monday, and the Cowboys did a stupid press conference about Brian Schottenheimer. So I'm in a mood to throw some darts. So buckle up. Here we go. Number 5. The probably not that dude, Brian Kelly. Let's just face it. If they don't see any kind of real returns and get back to the place that they were a year ago, he's probably not that dude. He's probably not a dude for LSU. And all the other dudes before him at LSU won national titles. If he can't do it, he's probably not that dude. It's a place that is relatively to the rest of the country pretty easy to win a national title if you do it right. Les Miles won one, and he couldn't find a quarterback. Brian Kelly, quit trying to reinvent the wheel, man. You're at LSU. I know that the rules have changed since those other 3 guys, of course, one of them was Nick Saban, did that, but you're still LSU. Yes, I understand that you're run by the Louisiana state government, which is not the most effective governing body in the world, especially when it comes to where does the money all go. But even still, you're LSU, man. Let's do something about that. Number 4, the skating on very thin ice dude, Mike Gundy. 3-9. 0-9 in the Big 12. That hurts, man. That hurts. And the kind of personality that as soon as things change and boards shift and people die and the younger people come in, if they haven't really seen the rate of return that they've got, well, they're not going to back you anymore. And you saw him go toe-to-toe with him and almost lose his job this year. Now, he was able to keep it, but he had to make concessions. And if you look at that cold blank stare, is this a guy who gives concessions all that often? No. So probably headed for a divorce in Stillwater. And nothing has happened this offseason to make me think that all of a sudden they're just going to arise, although he is a very, very good coach. So maybe that's the case, but they have to replace a lot of people in that roster with not a lot of experience. Number 3, the way worse than the dude before you dude, DJU. Now look, buddy, I know it wasn't all your fault. The offensive line was tragically bad, criminally bad. Maybe like imprisoned in The Hague bad, or tried in The Hague bad, because that's how bad the offensive line was. But the drop-off between Jordan Travis and DJU, I think might be, and Garrett, if this is hyperbole, stop me, the biggest drop-off between quarterbacks year over year in the history of college football.
I mean, it's up there. It's definitely up there.
I mean, it's got to be. Somebody's going to have to do some research on it that has more time on their hands than me and a different opinion of this subject because I'm a little close to it. But the way worse than the dude before you, dude, DJU. Sorry about your luck, guy. Number 2, the roadblock dude, Graham Mertz. And I'm sorry that I used this picture of Graham Mertz clearly getting injured. I don't want him to get injured, but this moment right here was the moment that Billy Napier came into his own as a head coach, because he stopped, kind of playing to this, well, Graham's earned it, he's a senior, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but sports is a meritocracy, and DJ Lagway has got that merit, man. And it's not about what he's earned on the field, because obviously he's a true freshman. It's about what he can do. And there's no more, exciting team in the offseason in this country right now about what was to what could be than the Florida Gators and what's going on with DJ Lagway. And that sentence pains me to say it, but Graham Mertz is a progress stopper. And if there's one thing I know that can undo good coaches, it is progress stoppers, because you like a guy's work ethic, you love the way he does things, you love the way he carries himself. That's Graham Mertz. And Graham Mertz didn't do anything to lose his job in that regard, other than being far less gifted an athlete than DJ Lagway, of which, Graham, welcome to the club of everyone else on earth except for like 9 guys. Again, sorry about your luck, but that's just how it was. And also, this award can be shared with Billy Napier, who had to have this happen to poor Graham Mertz to unblock that road. And number 1, your own worst enemy dude, Mario Cristobal. Had the best quarterback in the country this year by many regards, maybe the second best, but the best statistically in the country. Had a fantastic offense under Shannon Dawson, but the defense was abjectly terrible. And in the games where it was close that they needed to win to stay in the ACC race, with SMU and Clemson doing those things they needed to stay in the race, he tried to win too many games with his defense, which, if you'd watched the previous 8 games you'd played, Mario, you know you run in spite of your defense and not because of them. And because you had Cam Ward, who was a magic maker, but you can't give him the ball all 60 minutes of the game. The defense has to play some of them. And then the way that he talked his way around Cam Ward not playing in the second half of the bowl game. Look, we all know it's an exhibition game, and we all know that it doesn't matter if Miami wins that game or not for the future of the program. But your fans don't want to hear that. So Cam Ward's either going to play the whole game or he's not, and if he's not, that's fine. Tell them that. But don't pretend it's like we got to get a look and see what we've got in Emory Williams. You know what you have in Emory Williams. You know he wasn't going to help you win that game at this time. Why did you think you went out and got Carson Beck? So you going out and getting Carson Beck makes it even, the one half in the bowl game is what you need to see from Emory Williams, not the thousands of hours over the last 2 years of practice that he's had or the game action that he's had in that. None of that told you? Like, you went out and got Cam Ward for a reason. You went and got Reese Poffenbarger, who's now gone, for a reason. It was because Emory Williams was not inspiring all that much confidence in you in the first place, and what's going to change over 1 year, and now you went out and got Carson Beck. So Mario Cristobal, his own worst enemy, and the winner of the Your Own Worst Enemy Dude Award, year 1. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Top 5. Also, I know it was very Florida heavy. I'm sorry. It just went that way. All 3 of the schools had awards I had to get to, and they weren't the good ones.
That's not. Don't apologize for something you love talking about.
No, I didn't even realize it. Like, I'd made the list. I've been working on it for a week or so, and then I looked and 3, 2, 1 was FSU, Florida, Miami.
Yeah.
So
you're from there.
Yeah.
That's where you're from. All right. Thank you, Emory Winter, who's working on 365 Sports tonight, 10:30 tonight on the local CW. Also, Andrew is here with us today. Garrett Ross, weaving in and out of so many things. We appreciate you. We're back again tomorrow afternoon at 3. We appreciate your time. If you haven't hit the like or subscribe button, please do, and pass on the word. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thanks to our great sponsors. We'll be back tomorrow at 3. Triple option at 1, 365 Sports. Good night.